Hello everybody and welcome to the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here from Okayama. It's round 2 of our spring season here in 2022 and we're looking for another fantastic couple of races here this afternoon after kicking off our season at Circuit of the Americas 2 weeks ago. It was T3 Motorsport by Maniti who took a double victory at the Circuit of the Americas last time out. They're looking to possibly repeat that here today as they look to defend their title that they clinched, of course, in the fall season of 2021. There they are in the pit lane for qualifying, which is beginning in a few moments' time. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'll be alongside Nolan Rempel with Hugo Louise behind the cameras here once again, and we had great fun last time, Nolan. It was a fantastic couple of races in America. We've come over to Japan for a very different circuit and a very different challenge here at Okayama.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be by far one of the most difficult racetracks on the circuit to overtake at, except for maybe, of course, Laguna Seca. WeatherTech Raceway going to be in just a couple of weeks' time over on March 20th to end off the first half of your season. Then it's Long Beach, Charlotte Roval, and Mount Panorama. I tell you what, they have not made a very easy schedule when it comes to tracks easy to overtake at, have they, Ewan? I mean, it is just tracks that can provide a very unique challenge wherever you go for this spring season.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the case in the fall season as well. Last year, there was a lot of circuits on there that it wasn't all that easy to overtake on, but that doesn't mean it wasn't exciting last season, and we've got ourselves off to a good start in this season as well. So, let's have a look at how we stand after one round here. As I mentioned, T3 Motorsport by Maniti with a double victory are going to be first. Pure Sims with 2 second places. Second in the championship. RSL by Bukiga had a decent day as well. 5-Star Motorsport and the other Maniti car rounding out your top 5. Ingersoll Randanosis just outside of that top 5 and then less than 100 points for Team RSO. Simtech Motorsport, the other RSR by Bukiga car, and Vector by RSR. Both of the Vector by RSR cars, by the way, not having a fantastic day. In Pro-Am, Maniti are also having a fantastic time, but it's a lot closer. The top 4 are separated by only 4 points. That covers Kazar Sim Racing, Westwood Racing Esports, and Eclipse Racing Team as well, with Valorous Motorsports, rounding out your top 5 in those standings here as well. Rusty Spatulas, VC Sim Racing, and Cube Racing conclude those who scored points in the first round at Kota. Then Project Dynamic and Easy Clap by TR Motorsports have not scored any points so far. Then finally, in the smallest of the categories, the AM category, it was World of Sim Racing with a first and a second to take the top spot in the standings. Oblivion Racing Team Racing have just got in front of Kazar Sim Racing by a couple of points. TR Motorsports are 4th, ahead of V Racers and E-Team Brit rounding out your 6 cars in that order there. Before we go any further and get into qualifying, let's talk about how you can get involved at home here today. First of all, the giveaway, which is isolated completely to today. You've got a chance to win a HyperX Quadcast S microphone, of course, and you can do that by visiting the link in the description of this stream, or indeed in the YouTube chat as well. Just click on the link and follow your way through there, and you're in with a chance of winning. Well worth having a look. And of course, the Easter egg challenge prize for this season. You can see what you can win on screen there. There's a picture every week that you've got to be looking out for, and got to tell us what it is. Not much of a hint needed for that one, but you've got to remember where we are in the world and what the picture is. And at the end of the season, there'll be a sheet for you to fill all of the Easter eggs in from all of the rounds in this season. And you're in with a chance of winning those prizes you saw on screen a couple of moments ago. So that's how you can get involved, and these guys are going to get themselves involved with this qualifying session in a few moments' time. We just got 1 minute or so of practice remaining. The top 5 from this session will go straight through to the second part of qualifying. The rest of them will have to come inside the top 10 and qualify into the next part of qualifying. And it's not the longest circuit in the world here, Nolan, really. There is going to be a little bit of a fight for track space here, something you're going to have to be wary of.
Absolutely, and by far not the longest track in the world. In fact, this is one of the shorter racetracks we'll be going to so far over the course of both seasons. So this could be one of those facilities where track space is going to be crucial. And you heard a couple of drivers talking about it, of course, just in the opening round of the season, about how important qualifying is going to be and how important track position is going to be. And that is going to put a lot of the front runners in a very, very tricky position come race 2 when you get to that reverse grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget those top 20 cars from the first race will be reversed, and it will, and then you've got to fight your way through the field in the second race, which is also 1 hour, of course. It didn't phase T3 Motorsport by Maniti, though, in the Pro Championship. They won 2 out of 2 at Circuit of the Americas last time out, which is exactly what they did at the start of the fall season. Now, interestingly, they lost points on every single other race in the entirety of the season to the eventual runners-up RSO, eventually just about winning by 30 points or so. However, I think last season does show that it's very, very important to get yourself off to a very good start here, because Maniti last time out managed to win both of the first races and hold on throughout the entirety of the season, and they'll be obviously looking to do the same again here this time.
I think one other thing that is important to note as well as we get set to go into qualifying is just how powerful the Lamborghini has been so far throughout the course of the opening season, right? I mean, you had yourself a lot of the different Lamborghinis that were having themselves with a solid run out there at the Circuit of the Americas. So clearly some of those balance and performance changes that have been made have been swinging the favor of the cars a little bit further in the other direction from what was once the BMW M4 GT4. As you look at Tim Matzke in one of those Maniti Racing Lamborghinis. He was the first one to hit the track for qualifying. He'll also be the first one to put down a benchmark time. He'll just have to hope that he won't be caught up by drivers exiting pit road when he comes back around to the front straightaway.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good point. He's got out in front of everybody going out immediately, but what about those who are still yet to leave the pit lane? Matska here, of course, for the first time this season. They left it to Tristan Iglesias to do all of the work 2 weeks ago, and he did it very well, did the Spaniard. He was very, very strong indeed, and managed to which obviously take both of those races. They're not exactly going to be slowed down by the appearance of Tim Matska here. He was arguably the hero of last season. He was very, very strong, and obviously a driver synonymous with Maniti. He'll know what he's doing here, and he knows how to win in this championship as well. A fantastic addition to an already very strong team as they decide to, or try to, defend their title.
Running on board now with Tim Matzke. This is in the sprint all the way down into Atwood Curve, and as he gets set to power out, this is honestly one of the most fun types of acceleration zones you could get throughout Asian motorsports. You have yourself a short blast down in towards the hairpin corner. This is, of course, the longest straightaway on the track, and it leads into the hardest braking zone. That right there will be the best passing opportunity the drivers will have on the track. You fire down through Revolver and then out through Piper as he gets set to enter a much more twisty middle portion of the racetrack, and he's just exceeded track limits there, so he will not be having this lap counted, I would imagine. But on the brakes through Redmond, and they're going to be up through Cobbs. A couple of double switchback hairpins for you here. Always a challenge to get right, to figure out which gear you want to run through these corners to make sure you don't spin those wheels on the exit on acceleration.
Yeah, he will be looking to get away with this one, you'd imagine, after running wide, very wide, at turn 7 there, but might well have another opportunity to go again here in a few moments' time. Good benchmark, though, either way, to have a look at what the lap time is. It's a 1 minute 27.3, but will it count, is the question. The answer, I think, is no, and that is to be expected. Oh, no, it does count. There we are. It just came up towards the top, so despite running into the grass on the exit of turn 7 there, he's got away with it, and it will go to the top, but immediately eclipsed by 5-Star Motorsport. A good time from Adam Isaacson in the Porsche there to get up towards the front in the 105. RSR by G Performance at the 169, slotting into 4th there, just behind the McLaren of Pure Sims Esports in 3rd at the moment, as we go on board with one of the AM cars a little bit further down, on board with one of the Audis. Now, in terms of last season, it was Audi 1 and 2 in the championship by the end. No Audis inside the top 5 of the Pro category, and the best placed Audi is 3rd in Pro-Am, so not a very strong car for the Circuit of the Americas apparently, and not as popular as it was last season either, for whatever reason, whether that's BOP changes or something else.
I do find that to be rather interesting about how the fact that you get some of these cars that just swap how much people like to have them, and I wonder if potentially the performance from some of those cars over the course of the last season also might have a bit of a say in how people have switched around, because of course you are allowed to, I believe, change car manufacturers in between seasons. ride on board with Juga Tainio. This is one of the Pro-Am drivers, and he is just coming up and into Mike Knight corner as of right now. He is riding in the Porsche 911 GT3 for Rusty Spatulas. We'll see what he can put down across the line. The 213 car, Rusty Spatulas didn't have the best of runs in the in the fall season. Looking to see if they can have a better season so far here today, and it's going to be 17th place overall for Rusty Spatulas. I believe that'll put them about P4 so far in the Pro-Am category.
Yeah, of course, you can tell on the left-hand side not only by the different colours of the numbers on the timing tower there, but also the cars that start with a 100 or in the 100s are Pro cars, the ones in the 200s are the Pro-Am cars, and the ones in the 300s are the Am cars. So it's very easy for you to work out at home where these guys are. This is one of the Ingersoll Randonausis cars, the 135. Where is it going to be in relation to their teammates? Just in front. They get into 10th place. The number one, or the first of their two cars, is in 12th place just at the moment. They're separated by not much at all. As we go on board with another one of the Lamborghinis now, Pure Sims. They've decided to go for the Lamborghini in the 116 anyway, but scored absolutely 0 points 2 weeks ago. Very disappointing day for them, and it's going to be very difficult for them to bounce back as well, given it's only a relatively short season. 12 races sounds like a lot, but it's going to be difficult for them to get back up towards the front.
Yeah, it was not the best of runs in race one, was. I mean, they were just caught up with just about everything that they could have been thrown at them. And you're going to see Reese Carl taking that car back down into pit road, which you are allowed to do now in the HyperX GT Sprint Series, so long as you don't take the tow back to pit road and you drive it back on your own power. This is on board now with Ted Lowendyke coming down through Revolver Corner and out through Piper. This is going to be one of the Vector by RSR Mercedes, and one of the few Mercedes still in this field. And I do find this a bit interesting, right? Because I remember a couple of years ago when it was all talk about the Mercedes, on the Mercedes AMG, that was the GT3 car you wanted to be on. It was either that or the Audi R8 LMS if you wanted to win. That was, of course, more limited to the IMSA series, though, right? But even in stuff like the official GT Fix series and even the Endurance series, the Mercedes was very, very strong. Is this lap not going to count after running wide out through the final corner?
I don't know if it's just me, but there's a very strange noise coming out of that Mercedes as well for some reason. But there we are. Unfortunate there, right at the very end for Lowendyke, who just ran wide, and yeah, that lap will not count. Looks like he's going again though. Yeah, thankfully the choice for GT3 cars these days is a lot more varied than it used to be. It used to be basically pick an Audi or a Mercedes, or you're going to stand no chance. There were a few McLarens and BMW Z4s back in the day, but it wasn't really, they weren't quite as reliable as this particular car we're riding on board with right now, especially in an endurance distance where this very solid platform was much preferred to lots of the others. But now we've got great variety. Lamborghini, of course, here now, along with BMW and Porsche as well, although there's a distinct lack of Porsches in this field as well here this season for whatever reason. Either way, we're on board with, I think this is the Westwood Racing Audi here at the moment. Third place in the championship after the first race, but Pro-Am was absolutely fantastic 2 weeks ago. I've got to say, the top four separated by only 4 points, and you can't ask for much more than that in terms of entertainment.
Especially not when you get over 100 points that can be scored in one race event, right? Like a max of 200 points can be scored, so the fact that at the end of the day, you get yourself 4 drivers within 4 points, and it happens to be at the championship battle, that is a sign of good things to come and a very healthy championship fight, shall we say, for the Pro-Am category. And it could be in the Pro category now where we see drivers starting to run away, right? Because I think it was in the amateur category, wasn't it, last year, or the Pro-Am category, where you had drivers that were just running away with it, and you had one team that had locked out the entire first half of the season, taking back-to-back wins. And it was just insane domination, the likes of which we hadn't seen before. And we haven't seen that so far here tonight, or so far in the series.
Yeah, it was Project Dynamic who won by 218 points, and they only failed to win 3 of the races. So, yeah, they really did dominate. But thankfully, Pro-Am looking a lot closer this time. Project Dynamic reigning champions, scoring no points, by the way, in the first race, which does set us up for a very interesting season. And this car also will be setting us up for a very interesting time of things. Eric Grove driving the Pure Sims McLaren, and what a delight it is to see this wonderful relic of a GT3 car out here once more. Here, the only McLaren in the field, no surprises there, but what an absolute joy it is to see it out here.
Really creates a big spectacle, and that's one of the things I loved about the McLaren. I personally wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was a bit too oversteery for my taste. The one thing that I can always love about this car, and that never gets old, is the fireworks show that it puts whenever it gets on the brakes and downshifts. It is just absolutely an incredible sight to see, especially for drivers in behind. It's a good distraction technique almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Only 14 thousandths of a second off pole at the moment. I understand it's not that important. You just need to be inside the top 10 by the time we hit 20 minutes to go in the top left-hand side of your screen. But for now, they're putting themselves in a very good place, as is Tim Matska, by being the first man to get into the 26s. That's more like it from him. He will certainly be going through to the second part of qualifying there, laying a bit of a marker down there, showing that he is still here. He is still the strongest, 3.5 tenths quicker than anybody else right now.
3.5 tenths quicker. Will that time last? Because, of course, it is very different being fast in a one-lap pace as being compared to an entire run. You got to be fast all the way throughout the race. Well, not even all the way throughout the race. You got to be fast in your about a 25 to 35 minute stint, depending on when these drivers opt to come on down for that mandatory driver change and the mandatory pit stop that takes place right around the halfway point of each of these 1 hour races. But so far, doing a good job of putting himself where he needs to be. Of course, we talked about this earlier, and as you probably can guess just by the look of the track position is going to be oh so important, and you have to get yourself the best possible chance of being able to start as far up the grid as possible, because that, of course, means you've got fewer cars that you're going to have to bully out of your way to go for a race win.
This is the 5-star Motorsport Lamborghini switching over from the Porsche that they used in the fall season of 2021. Currently second place. They did just improve, actually, did Adam Isaacson. So he's still second, but just a little bit closer to Matska than he was previously. We also saw an improvement for the 173 Miniti car, which is very impressive indeed, because they're up to 4th now, and it's very, very populated and very close between all of those guys fighting over the top 10 positions. We look down to Valorous Motorsports Apollo down in 16th position. I reckon they're, what, a tenth and a half off of the top 10, and they're down in 16th position at the moment. It's outrageously close down there right now. And if you're a Pro-Am car or an Am car and getting yourself inside the top 10, or at least close to it, you're going to stand yourself in a very good way going into this first race, because you're going to be able to put some cars between yourself and some of your rivals, of course. Some very, very good performances there in the lower part of the top 10.
So we'll have to see what Sean Campbell will be able to make of himself here as the Mercedes gets set to take things away. There you see a couple of drivers looking to come on out for a few more late race runs, shall we say, for what could be a very solid run through a lot of these drivers throughout the field. A couple of guys still wanted to make those final runs, and that's where it really counts, right? The final and the fastest laps do tend to come a little bit later in these qualifying sessions when the rubbers lay down a little bit more on the track, and it brings the grip in that much more.
Into the pit lane for Team RSO, and indeed one of the Porsches in the background for one of the lower categories. Coming in, are they safe down at the 197 team? That is the question. You'd think so. They're 4 tenths above the cut-off line at the moment, but they're only in 6th position. So going to be some nervous times with 90 seconds to go here, but they've decided that they are going to be safe, and they're putting, getting themselves ready for Q2, and kind of hoping, fingers crossed, that they'll make it there. But even the 3rd place car out here still lapping 2nd place car just in the background there, as even these guys up towards the front are not very confident they'll make it to the second part of qualifying here, judging how close it is.
It is unbelievably tight in this field, and that is going to be the hallmarks of what could be a phenomenal race. Because if there's ever one thing that the HyperX GT Sprint Series has been good at doing, it is making a track where you can't really overtake a track where you could overtake. They will find ways to do it in the most unlikely of places. We saw that all throughout last year. Remember Oulton Park in particular, was an absolute barn burner of a race, and that's arguably one of the hardest tracks you can take on in general in GT3 cars like these ones. You know that they're going to find ways to just put on an absolutely spectacular race, one that we won't even have any words to react to because of how wild it could be.
Yeah, we had late race battles for the lead going on at Barber Motorsports Park as well, and that is not an easy circuit to overtake on either, especially in these larger GT3 cars than you otherwise might see going around there. Eric Grove, we're on board with him at the moment. Oh, a little bit wide through turn one. The time will elapse now, but he will be able to complete this lap if he wants to, I believe. Well, I know, because he's out here at the moment. But these two on your screen right now pretty much going to be the last ones to come over the line. Who outside of the top 10 is really on an improvement here? The likes of Aaron Ackles is currently out there on the circuit at the very least for Kazar Sim Racing. Ingersoll Randanosis Pro 2 out there right now, as well as VC Sim Racing. Here's Aaron Ackles though, one of the AM cars trying to get inside the top 10. This would be a monumental performance for these guys if they could break the top 10 here.
And he was up inside the top 10 for a good portion of the session until the fast times really started to come down. But the fact that you got the Kazar Sim Racing and Racing car that was up in the top 10 for the first 10 to 15 minutes or so of the session is, again, a real testament to how quick that car really is. I mean, you don't often find yourself with these AM cars threatening the top 10, right? Usually they're just struggling to get into the top 15 or even the top 20 on occasion. Very rarely do we ever see cars as fast as this in the AM class. It's great to see, though, because it really does throw a bit of a wild card into the mix.
Certainly does. We'll see if Aaron Ackles can get up there inside the top 10. He's probably the last man to be able to jump in there now, and he doesn't need a big improvement here either. Although he pulls to the right-hand side, I think he's accepted the inevitable here, that he's not going to make it, has he? Yes, he has. It's a 28.1. It's not an improvement on his previous lap time, and it's not quite good enough for a top 10, but it will probably be a 16th position starting, or 16th place start for those guys there in that team. When the five who've made it through from practice do indeed set their lap times, they will indeed be pushed down. So Ackles unfortunately just misses out. But we've got our top 10 there on the left-hand side. You can see those, and they will be joined by XBD MO Racing, Easy Club by TR Motorsports, RSR by Bookkicker, the 167 car, that is, the Kazar Sim Racing Hydra car, and Ludens Racing as well. We'll be joining those 10 drivers you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. So all of the big names have made it, really. I can't see any major players in these races who haven't made it. I guess one thing to note on that is Vector by RSR, once again for the second round in a row. The 171 team having a terrible time of things. Only 19 points from Circuit of the Americas, and they're currently outside of the top 10, going to be starting probably outside the top 20. And for a team that were so strong throughout so many portions of last season, it is becoming normal, but it's still a bit of a surprise.
It really is a bit of a shock, isn't it? I mean, you have such a phenomenal season, especially in GT3 racing, right? You expect to be able to carry that momentum over into the next season, especially since that seems to be like what some teams have done, like Maniti Racing, who have just been able to carry over that momentum and sometimes even get a little bit more for themselves in the opening round. They are really kind of the exceptions to the rule, and I'm interested to see why that is. But whatever the case is, they are going to definitely have to get whatever is going on there in hand quickly. You mentioned it before, it is not a very long season, so they're going to have to figure out whatever is going on with that team and get it sorted if they want to have any hope at contending for a championship.
So 1 minute and a half to go until we will be qualifying once more. 15 more minutes and 15 cars will be sorting themselves out. The times on the left-hand side of your screen will carry through. So obviously these guys who made it through from practice will have to get themselves a time on the board. But those out there at the moment, for example, T3 Motorsport by Maniti, if nobody can beat them, including themselves, then they will be taking pole position without turning a wheel here. But you can be sure they are going to continue trying, and there's no better man to do that than Tim Matska. I do feel like, though, Maniti are going to have a tougher time here today. If you remember Circuit of the Americas, everybody opposing Tristan Iglesias in those races had to swap driver, and one driver was never as strong as the other one, so nobody could quite keep up with the consistent pace of Iglesias. This time, Matsuko and Iglesias are going to have to share the car between themselves. Neither of them are slow, of course, but the added two-car element between the two of them, or two-driver element, excuse me, sharing that car, will maybe slow them down a little bit and maybe bring the likes of 5-Star Motorsport and Pure Seemed Esports into the conversation once again for a possible race win here today.
Possibility is certainly there. Those driver changes are the make or break moments, right? You have to pick the battles wisely. Who do you want to have out in front? And honestly, at a track like this, even I would want to have the fastest and the more aggressive drivers in the car for the first stint, right? Because we know how hard it is to pass here. It's going to be even harder later on in the race. Everybody's more spread out around the racetrack, and you have to contend with lap traffic, which I can guarantee is going to be a factor these drivers have to work with today as the flag flies on Q2 from the Okayama racing circuit. I have to say, you put the faster driver in the car first, the more aggressive driver in the car first, and then have the guy that likes to more just kind of ride around and be a little bit more conservative later on, because you know it's going to be that more difficult to overtake, so you don't need to have a more aggressive driver in the car later on when you're not going to be passing anybody.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, but of course, if you are stuck behind someone, and we will see these trains starting to form, we often do, we see trains form and then the pit stops come. Of course, you've got to make it between 25 and 35 minutes in the race. It can allow for overtakes to happen in the pit lane. If you remember, I think it was the first race at Circuit of the Americas, we had the top three coming out almost inside of each other as they went out the pit lane. It was a remarkable situation, and yeah, it was very, very close between those guys. Unfortunately, it spread out again in the second stint, but yeah, they were completely nose to tail coming out of the pit lane on that first race. So who knows whether we're going to see a similar situation this time. We'll find out, of course, when the racing commences, but a last little bit of qualifying is still to go. 15 minutes, 15 cars, all fighting for pole position, and first of all, they've got to get somebody else into the 26s, because so far Tim Matsuko and T3 Motorsport by Maniti is the only car able to do that, and not a great start in the background there for 5-Star Motorsport, kicking up the dirt already.
Not the best of runs for 5-Star, but you still have yourself 15 minutes to go, and with lap times just around a minute and a half, that is plenty of time to get yourself a better time up at the top of the timing boards. On board with Tim Ryder, one of the Pro-Am cars in his number 235 Lamborghini, just coming up through Atwood Curve now to thunder down the back straightaway. He was one of the drivers that did not set a time in Q1, didn't have to set a time in Q1. Seeing what he can do now in that Lamborghini as we get set to kick off Q2 on a high from him.
Yeah, indeed, he did this the entire race at the Circuit of the Americas on his own, and managed to put in a very good performance indeed. But the 235, unfortunately, I believe they might have been disqualified or something from that one, because they didn't score any points, or they haven't got any points next to their name in the championship. So I will have a little look at that one a little bit later to see exactly what's gone on there. But yeah, Reiter is going to be accompanied here today, you can be sure. But through the final couple of corners he goes. The very fast penultimate corner, which just take a lot of commitment, and then more medium speed final turn here to set yourself up onto the front straight and into turn one, which is not the greatest overtaking opportunity. You really want to be waiting for the back straight, but Tim Reiter over the line here. It's a 28-0. And just see how good everybody was in Q1 here. He's only 17th there.
Only 17th, but once again, there is plenty of time left to go. You also saw the Kazara Sim Racing machine going up to 10th place so far. That was the 225 car. How about our RBG Performance up to third with a 127.245? So you got yourself a lot of drivers looking to log those times early here. Andreas Thiel setting the bar for the podium positions now as he puts his car up into the 5th position, up into the top 5, setting that benchmark time. Adam Isaacson, see if he can potentially improve and put that car on provisional pole. Yeah,
he's going to need about 3 attempts here if he wants to indeed do that. Into the hairpin with an imaginative name, by the way. Turn 5, it is literally called hairpin. And then 6 and 7, 2 slower speed left-handers here on the infield part of this circuit, you might say. through the final couple of hairpins as well. But yeah, those cars who got through in practice, really not very strong early on in this qualifying session. We've already talked about Tim Reuters at lap time there, but Luden's Racing down in 20 seconds, XPD Emerald Racing 26th. RSR haven't managed to get a good lap time in at all yet. That Kazar sim racing car, the only car from practice who has been able to set a decent lap time at least, in 10th place. Here is Eric Grove once again. This McLaren out here at 4th place at the moment, only 4 thousandths of a second behind the RSR car for 3rd.
So Luden's Racing also going up into 13th place as the time starts to roll on in. Eric Grove comes across the line. 2 Pure Sims cars, McLaren followed by a Lamborghini, and across the line, Pure Sims will improve. The 117 goes up to 2nd place. How about that? And that will leave the 116 Lamborghini still stuck down in 9th place for the time being. Half a second off of Medici up on provisional pole.
Yeah, absolutely, although Matska might be able to push the boat out even further here by improving here once again with maybe a mid-26, is it? Oh, it's a 26.7. It's another improvement from the German, and he will continue his reign at the front of this field. Fantastic hot lapping once again from a great driver, nearly 4 tenths ahead of the entire field. The next 4 tenths will take you all the way down to about 9th. So it's just very, very impressive as we look at Ole Steenbratton at the moment in the 167. This car also got through from practice, looking like a fairly decent performance in the second part of qualifying here. 6th place for the 167 RSR car.
And there you can see the 167 looking to try to get a solid time in, but the RSR by Buck Kicker Machine is going to be coming into pit road and abandon the qualifying lap, but there is still time. 9 minutes just under remaining. Eric Grove will do the same, so will the Pure Sims Lamborghini driven by Reese Carroll in the 1-6 Beniti coming in as well. A lot of drivers not opting to go for a second qualifying hit here. The first driver that will be back out on track will be Adam Isaacson as you look to Ivan Hernandez in the 190 Lamborghini. This is a car currently sitting 10th place on the racetrack and just trying to see what he can do, and he's got a lot of clean air around him, so this is about a dream situation for that Emerald Lamborghini as he gets set to try to see if he can't put himself a little bit further up the order.
Yeah, he just drove onto the grass there on the back straight. Looks like he's backed off quite substantially here, actually. Only scored 33 points at Circuit of the Americas. That's 11th place and a DNF, unfortunately, at the last event. So not breaking the top 10 just yet, but maybe today is going to be their day. As we see Isaacson getting used to the new car, of course. I don't know how much getting used to he's actually had to do here, really, because these guys, as I accidentally said earlier, the 5-star motorsport team did have a Porsche last season. They're now in the Lamborghini. It's all a case of how quickly you can adapt, really, and it's all a case of as well, how much driving have you actually done in the Lamborghini elsewhere? Because for all we know, he might be very adapted to this car already, despite the fact he's not actually driven in either very long with this car.
Hasn't driven in IVRA for very long with this car, but all things considered, doing a good job on showing what he can do out there on the racetrack. As look up to Adam Isaacson in the 105 Lamborghini for 5-star Motorsports. Again, switch it over from that Porsche 911 GT3 to the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. Coming across the line, flirting with the gravel on the left-hand side. I think he's just gotten away with that one, though. He'll come across the line to end out lap. His 15th attempted lap, and it's a 1:27.280. Not an improvement on the clock. Still 4.5 tenths of a second off of Medici's pole time.
Yeah, absolutely. It just puts it all into perspective, really. That time would have been good enough on its own for a top 5, but it's still not an improvement for this car, and it's nowhere near Medici. Even at this stage, down in towards turn 4 at the moment, which really sets you up for the best overtaking opportunity on this entire circuit, which is turn 5, the hairpin, of course. Late on the brakes down here, and it's a difficult braking zone, really. Downhill braking zones are never that nice, but it does make for entertaining stuff in terms of overtaking. The disadvantage you do have, though, is that you kind of got to get it done because the next 2 corners are left-handers. The next 3 corners, indeed.
You got yourself a mighty bunch of left-handers throughout this circuit, and none of them are very, very easy, right? Most of them are over crests, or they're through very one-line kinks where it's almost impossible to find the line.
Or an Audi spun around at the hairpin there. No idea what that was all about. I think wasn't quite able to catch which one either, but it doesn't look like Lowendick was slowed down by that one. Got to be a bit distracting coming across a spun car on your lap, but it doesn't look like it's phased him at all by the looks of things.
That was Westwood racing Esports, and he spun right in front of the Mercedes, as a matter of fact. That is unfortunate for Vector by RSR, but looks like he remains unfazed, and that's what you got to do, right? You got to make sure that you can weather through those distractions to get that time in qualifying. It is oh so important to be 100% focused. We'll see what Lowendick can do here as he gets set to come across start-finish for lap number 14. Bombing it down the front straight away. 127.760. Not an improvement. I have a feeling it might have been that spun Audi that did him in.
It might have been a factor, as we see Pearson just improved there in the 116 into 9th place. Their Lamborghini. This is the second place car in the Pro-Am standings, because the 135 of Tim Reiter has recently improved quite a lot actually into 7th place. Hansdale at the moment driving the 273 for Maniti down in 12th, but looking to improve here over the line. Unfortunately, not an improvement this time, just over 3 tenths down on their previous best. But 4.5 minutes to go now. Look at this. This is important. They're resorting to desperate measures, you could say, down at Pure Sims. This is, of course, totally within the rules and just smart play from the both of them. Eric Grove getting a humongous slipstream down the back straight here. Is this going to push him towards pole position, or is even the slipstream not going to be enough to topple Tim Matzke here today?
The McLaren MP4-12Cs really have never been too far up towards the top of the boards when it comes to GT3 racing on iRacing. But Eric Grove was looking set to just shatter that trend as he was trying to put that McLaren up on pole position, and that would really be something. And he's using every last inch that this track could offer through the last couple of corners, through Mike Knight and the suitably named last corner down the straightaway. Looks like this could be a good lap. Comes across the line, 127.072. Still, he does improve on his time, but not enough to take pole position.
No, not enough. He's still got 3.5 minutes to try, but it's looking less and less likely for this McLaren now. Of course, it is harder to get that McLaren to go much faster in a straight line, to be quite honest. It's very quick anyway, as Maniti go up for a 1-3 at this moment, and RSR move up the order, so a couple of improvements here in the dying moments of this qualifying session. The 167 of Ole Steinbratton, easily the best car that made it through during practice. Here it is, second place for this Mercedes. So currently we've got Lamborghini, Mercedes, McLaren, then Lamborghini. Once again, a good spread of manufacturers as well. But this is a good lap time from Steinbratton. He's had to sit and wait for the last 20 minutes, waiting for this second part of qualifying. And then when he's been called upon, he's been able to produce a very good lap time there immediately.
Puts that car up in second place, exactly where it used to be. Could this be a resurgence of the RSR crew, right? We didn't see them threatening for the race win all too much in the first round at the Circuit of the Americas. Looking set, though, to try to threaten for a race win today. Maniti might not have an easy time ahead of him. That Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo will be a little bit more worried, I would imagine, in the 101 car. So Steinbratton coming around up through Hobbs corner and towards Mike Knight corner. This could be a solid lap, but he's not going to put that car up on pole position. He is going to be bailing out, and I do believe that will mean he will not be able to go out there and complete his laps.
Yeah, he'll be really pushing it to get back out there again. As you see that Audi coming into the pit lane as well. I've got to be careful just merging into the pit lane like that here in IVRA, of course. You've got to do it properly, and there it is. Pull it to the right-hand side there. This is one of the Pro-Am cars, once again another one of the Lamborghinis. It is, of course, Tim Reiter, who's currently leading in this Pro-Am category. And Nolan, you were able actually to get to the bottom of why this team didn't actually score any points at Circuit in the Americas, despite their success on the racetrack.
Exceeding max driver class points was the ruling there, and that saw them get a disqualification from the race. So despite the good performance, that breach of the regulations for exceeding those max driver class points is what saw them with a disqualification, meaning they were not able to score any points. They're going to be looking to turn that all around here at Okayama tonight.
Yeah, not one of those rules where somebody has to decide whether it's a penalty or not. It's pretty black and white, unfortunately, for them. And, yeah, they've fallen down on the wrong side of it. Either way, 7th place right now for Reiter. A very, very good performance. And you'd expect this, of course. He is a driver with real-life racing experience in the real world. And, bouncing across those curves through the penultimate turn and getting things wrong. Oh, dearie me. Into the pit lane dividing wall. And he'll be very glad that this qualifying session is only 30 seconds away from ending, because that car will have been ruined.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody slam a car into the pit wall at Okayama. That is a first for me. It's one of those things where you don't think it would be quite possible, but there you go. Just getting it wrong in the worst possible way.
So that doesn't happen in the race, because that will be race ending, quite possibly. But it doesn't matter really for them. They're going to be on pro and pole position as we see the checkered flag and get ready for race 1 here at Okayama. 1 hour of racing, of course, and then we'll reverse the top 20 and go for another hour of racing around about 15 minutes after that. A big thank you to everybody who's joined us here this afternoon. I hope you're going to be enjoying the show here today. Let's see how we start, though, here with the starting grid. Tim Matska, a wonderful performance from him to take pole position ahead of RSR by Primus. Pure Sims and Beniti are going to be sharing the second row together ahead of Adam Isaacson, rounding out your top 5. Sean Campbell for RSR by G Performance will be starting from 6th position ahead of the first of the Pro-Am cars. Tim Lowendick will be in 8th ahead of the second of the Pure Sims cars in 9th. Team RSO runs up from last season. Cedric Nebusek starts from 10th place in this race. XPD Emo Racing 11th ahead of T3 Motorsport by Medici, the second of the Pro-Am cars. Kazar Sim Racing will be 30th ahead of Ludens Racing, with Westwood Racing Esports rounding out the top 15. The AM pole sitter Aaron Ackles will be 60th ahead of Ingersoll Randanosis Pro 2. They'll be 17th ahead of VEC Sim Racing. They're sharing the 9th row of the grid together. Ingersoll Randanosis will be 19th ahead of Simtech Motorsport, rounding out the top 20. Then it's Valorous Motorsports Apollo with Vector by RSR on the 11th row. Project Dynamic with their American-style livery there in 23rd ahead of Matt Loveridge starting the Olympus Esports Lamborghini. Marco Silva will be starting for V Racers in 25th ahead of TR Motorsports. Eclipse Racing team of Rusty Spatulas will be on the 14th row together ahead of Cube Racing and Oblivion Racing, rounding out your top 30. And finally, Wilderness Sim Racing, your AM Championship leaders after one race in this championship, will be bringing up the rear here today. It's a big grid, Nolan, and it's going to be a big funnel down into turns 1 and 2.
Very big grid here tonight, and obviously that could mean some major challenges that these drivers are definitely going to have to work through, and they're going to have to get a handle of them very quickly here. No doubt these guys have been looking to try to practice racing with one another all throughout the very long practice session that took place before this. We're only going to have to hope that it's going to all come together for these guys. We're not going to be seeing any of those really big pileups early on that we saw throughout the opening round at Circuit of the Americas.
Well, let's hope not. Anyway, there's certainly scope for it. There's not a lot of runoff around here, of course. It's all grass and gravel, and then the barriers are there to collect you. So let's see. Let's hope that nobody finds them here today. So then, round 2 of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series set to kick off with the 3rd race of the season here and the first here this afternoon at Okayama. It's T3 Motorsport by Beniti and Tristan Iglesias, who looks like he's going to be starting this race for them, and RSR alongside Lamborghini versus Mercedes on the front row of the grid as we turn onto the front straight and see those red lights on the gantry at the moment, waiting for Beniti to go and get us underway for 1 hour of racing here in Japan. We're waiting a very long time, and they all fan out all at once as the green flag is waved, and T3 Motorsport by Beniti covering both sides of the road. Around the outside for the 173, they're 3 wide. It's a big squeeze, but they've all made it through. Pure Sims in that McLaren have made it up to 2nd place from 3rd on the grid. A good start from them, with the Mercedes fighting the other Beniti car, of course, through through turn 2, and then the little chicane at turn 3. They hold on to third place ahead of the 173 car. Then it's 5-Star Motorsport and another of the RSR cars. They run onto the back straight again, and it's a clean start for everybody, but a good start most of all for Tristan Iglesias in the lead.
The fact that they fanned out 3 and 4 wide and made it work through turn 1 here is a real testament to the skill these drivers have. Single file all the way back until about 8th and 9th place. It's trebling behind one of the Pure Sims Lamborghinis, getting spun around as the 116 car driven by Reese Carroll that I think might have been given a bit of a tip from the Vector by RSR. He's just behind, potentially just lost it all by himself though on cold tires. Again, something we haven't really talked about too much today, but now you can see funneling down into the tighter section, the second portion of this lap. This is where it all gets tight.
It certainly does. That Ingersoll Audi, by the way, just up in front, has made 7 places on this start as some are falling back, including that Pure Sims Lamborghini, which continues to do so. Into the pit lane for them. There must be suspension damage there after a little bit of contact on this first lap. It's nice and clean up the front, but it's messier a little bit further back. Still side-by-side battling after a whole lap here at this circuit. It's still going on. Vector by RSR very much involved within it, as well as the other Ingersoll car steaming down the inside. There was Ted Lowendick, I think that is, in the Mercedes, side-by-side through 1 and 2 once again. Great battling between all these GT3s, but on the most part, everybody making their way through. Reese Carroll, the only man to, unfortunately, have to come into the pit lane.
It's a solid run of what we're seeing so far here today. You'll look up now to P number 6 on the road, and that is Sean Campbell looking for the inside. Andreas Thiel, will he lunge for the inside? Yes, he will. RSR up the inside of Beniti for the 4th position on the racetrack, and RSR is going to be through, going to squeeze him in. Contact's made. That bodies Campbell out to the right-hand side of the racetrack as they fire through Piper, but Campbell going to go for the crossover now as they bomb it back down the straightaway into Redmond corner. Campbell still looking for it, and Beniti can't get clear, and he has to bail as you see Olympus Esports having to spin deeper in the field to bump it down to 30th place.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very close indeed between these three. In the end, Andreas Thiel holds on. Let's not forget that Sean Campbell has got through an Adam Isaacson on this lap a little bit earlier, just away from our screens, but he's looking to take 2 on 1 lap there. Wasn't quite able to do it, but he's applying a lot of pressure to this 173 and is even poking the nose down in towards turn 1 there, which would be a brave manoeuvre, but he's deciding to just stick behind here for the moment through turns 1 and 2 once more. Campbell, you just see the way he's taking these tighter lines right now. He certainly looks stronger in that Mercedes, at least in the opening part of this race. This Beniti Lamborghini struggling to really get going on the higher fuel load maybe of this race. Tim Matska suffering a little bit of the same fate here because Pure Sims and RSR hounding him as well as we run down the back straight right now. But surely now there's going to be another attempt here from the American down the inside quite possibly. Oh, there's a bit of contact and a free wide moment. A bit further back. Oh, dearie me. Into the barrier for Ingersoll as up front. There's a battle for the lead going on. McLaren versus Lamborghini. Eric Grove around the outside of Tristan Iglesias, who gives him the space through turn 7. This is a great fight that you can see one going on in the background as well. Grove breaks late on the outside line, which is going to give him the inside for the 3rd last corner on this racetrack. Is it going to be enough, though, for him to make his way through? They still battle side by side. Iglesias not giving up on the outside line, but surely he's going to have to here. He's not going to. Side by side. Oh, there's such a squeeze between the two. But Eric Grove just about takes the lead here at the end of lap 3.
Iglesias wants that lead back, though, looking to the left-hand side. Eric Grove goes defensive into turn number 1. The McLaren holding strong and will hold on to the race lead. Nothing that Iglesias can do about that one. So Steinbrenton is now right in behind. It's a 3-car tandem almost for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. What a drive that we're seeing here from all of your top 3 runners to put on an amazing show for us. I mentioned earlier that these guys will find a way. This is the big wreck for Ingersoll into the barrier and up and into the air. A humongous wreck there. That almost like to see Ingersoll down and out of the race for race number 1.
Deary me, that was a humongous accident. And yeah, there's no coming back from that, surely, in this race. Deary me. hard to tell who was at fault as well because of that kink in the straight. That's going to be argued about, you can be sure. As we see, I think Munich might have been, they've just been shoved out wide through the hairpin. Actually, it wasn't a spin for them, but shoved out wide by that RSO car. That's made a fantastic start here, by the way, as well. I believe 5 places made up off of the start, which is not bad going after only 6 minutes in this one. But after qualifying in 4th place, it's all become a little bit too much, unfortunately, for Andreas Thiel. He's dropped back, a good 4 places now in the opening moments of this race. So some guys who were able to qualify very well have fallen back, unfortunately, and some of those who are a bit disappointing in qualifying starting to rise to the fore.
So back down the front straightaway, and already you see the McLaren starting to pull away, and Steinbrecher now starting to really threaten the likes of Tristan Iglesias up there for the 2nd position. At this point, Miniki's got to worry a little bit more about defense than he can about offense. As Eric Grove is getting set to pull away, and there you see the 107 car getting shunted off. That was the Sim Racing Esports crew that got punted into the gravel.
Yeah, Simtech Motorsports out onto the gravel, I'm afraid, and I think it's Stender Sandal who started their car actually, and they'll be recovering. Yes, it was indeed the last car that hasn't been into the pit lane, I'm afraid, all the way down in 29th. Meanwhile, Tristan Iglesias has got big problems here because he's on the defensive once more. The Mercedes with the slipstream on the outside line there might be able to make this work because, of course, we've got left-handers coming up if he can hang it round there, but can't quite for the moment. So Ollie Steinbrecher is going to have to he's going to have to fall into line for the moment and continue on in 3rd place. But these 3 very close together once more. Pure Sims, Beniti and RSR 1, 2 and 3 right now.
And don't look now, but you got yourself the 2nd RSR machine, the 169, just behind, 2 seconds back in 4th place, trying to close in the gap. And that would be a very critical point for Iglesias if he would have 2 RSR cars looking to potentially gang up on him. That would be absolutely disastrous for Iglesias. That'd be the dream story, though, for Eric Grove as he continues to lead the way. This McLaren MP4-12C, as you can now see. I do believe RSR is starting to close in. Taking a look at yet another replay. This is with Polaris hard into the wall.
Deary me. One of the Lamborghinis getting tipped into the wall. That hairpin causing problems, I'm afraid, for everybody here in this race. Because that's the 2nd car we've seen off there in 2 laps now. But yeah, there we are. Unfortunate for those guys now, 3 cars that have had to come down to the pit lane for damage repairs. Kevin Finn just making his way in as we speak, I believe. I'd be surprised if he's carrying on anyway. We see Steinbrecher again down the inside this time at the hairpin, nearly into the side of Iglesias in that Maniti Lamborghini. He's got nice traction as well, but can't quite hang it around the outside. Through 6 and 7, he's going to have to stick behind now, and this is what we were talking about pre-race. It's hard to overtake here, despite that hairpin that's so tricky on the brakes. It's a big braking zone, of course, but it's still difficult to overtake.
Difficult, I think, is a little bit of an understatement. It is not an easy run. You really need to, I would say the draft doesn't even play that big of a role. You almost need to get better runs out of these corners. Of course, that is not the story for the front and the back straightaways, but that is really the only point where you can be able to actually use the draft to effect as Iglesias goes wide into the gravel, and a bit of a flash of the lights there. There's a late block, and RSR starting to get a little bit more antsy, tucked in behind for 3rd.
This is all helping Eric Grove as well in the Pure Sims McLaren here, because the more these 2 fight, the more that leading car is going to be allowed to edge away from the rest of the field here. They run down through turn 3 now and into 4. Yeah, this is nearly 3/4 of a second. It's going to be a second before we know it. Ollie Steinbrecher has to get through here if he wants to hitch onto the back of that McLaren and get away from Beniti with that Pure Sims car. In the slipstream once again for this Mercedes, trying to maybe make a move down the inside on this occasion. It is going to be the inside. Not late enough on the brakes though, really, although Iglesias gives him the room and brakes a little bit too late himself over the crest of the hill. Outside line through 6 and 7, he's further alongside this time than he was last. A big squeeze, but there's no space out there. It's difficult to get through. Has he got the run into the hairpin? Doesn't really look like it, although he's going to give it a dive. Here he goes into the first of the 2 hairpins at turn 8, now round the outside through the second of them, which is turn 9. And he still can't make his way through here, blocked by Iglesias. The gap now to the lead is nearly 1.5 seconds.
This is an almighty defense that we're seeing from Iglesias, and it is keeping Beniti well up in second place, but you can see Eric Grove starting to break away. Now over a second between Beniti and Pearsons for the overall race lead. And that Mercedes is going to continue to close on in, and you know that car is not going anywhere soon. And he is, I think, trying to see if he can maybe get Sean Campbell up to battle with him. But the problem for Campbell is he's having to defend himself against guys like Team RSO and 5-Star Motorsports, who you've been seeing that fight start to develop just in the background as well.
Down into the outward curve again. And it's another opportunity for Steinbratton to make his way through. The battles behind are keeping those guys away here, by the way. It's all helping the McLaren. All going in their favour at the moment down at Pure Sims. Here is Steinbratton, though. Is no move this time now. I heard a bit of lifting off quite possibly there. They're not looking for the move, but in the background there is a move being made by Team RSO. What a fantastic opening part of the race it is for Cedric Nebelsek here, because he's flying up the order. Not a great circuit in the Americas, not a great qualifying, but a fantastic first race at Okayama. They're up into fourth.
Up in fourth place, we'll see what Nebelsek can do as his attempts to try to go after a podium position. With how hard Steinbratton is fighting that with Iglesias, if he can get clear from Sean Campbell, he'll be up there before long. This could be good news for Campbell, as here's another look at that overtake. Just a bit deeper on the brakes than Campbell. They even got clear by the time they reached the turning point, so that's really goes to show just how much later the Audi was on the brakes. And in fact, I think Campbell was actually holding up too much, so because look at the gap starting to form in behind them now, as Steinbratton continues to develop this fight here with Tristan Iglesias, the Beniti driver, trying to keep ahead of Team RSR, all the while Team RSO continues to reel in the gap.
Oh, that's a squeeze, and that's a spin for Tim Lowendick, dearie me, through turn 1 and coming towards turn 2. That Vector by RSR car is in a very awkward place now, as they have to reverse out of the way, and it does quite a good job actually of getting in nobody's way there. But it's going to be a long wait for him to get back onto the track here, because there's a long train of cars. There he goes, finally. Let's see how it happened. A bit of a squeeze from the Westwood Racing Esports Audi.
Did a good job of keeping that thing out of the barriers, but I can guarantee you that Ted Lowendick is not going to be a happy camper about that one, because that was, of course, a Pro-Am car that just took out the pro driver of Ted Lowendick. And, of course, that does mean that that was not a battle for in-class positions. So you have to think that might leave him with a bit of a bad taste in his mouth. We'll see if that develops at any point throughout race 2.
We'll see if they come together again. And meanwhile, further back to Olympus, or the Olympus Esports car, excuse me, getting up the order here. One of the pro cars out of position, by the way, in some of these battles that are happening a little bit further down the field. I believe that's Kazar Sim Racing Lamborghini. And Cube Racing involved here as well, down towards the back of the field. It's a very long train. You can see all the way down from Rusty Spatulas in 18th, really, all the way down to the Simtech Motorsport car, which is just behind Cube Racing here. Stander Senal's got himself back onto the rear end of this very large train indeed. And he'll be looking to make his way through as well as a pro car. Down the inside of Rusty Spatulas at the moment, though, goes TR Motorsports, one of the AM cars, making a move on a Pro-Am car. Don't see that very often, but side by side, a lot of space given through turn 1 and 2. These are the very dangerous kind of battles, really, for any car to be involved in. None of these guys really want to be hit.
And then there's Project Dynamic going for the diamond up the inside of TR Motorsports, and looks like Guikema is going to leave him room, but Chiusano doing a good job in his 217 Audi. He's trying to get up there to battle that with the Rusty Spatula's Pro-Am car, because that would be a fight for position, but TR Motorsports not letting them have it, really. In fact, will defend now up in the hairpin corner. Eclipse going to try to follow through as Team Oblivion outbreaks themselves around the outside line without leaving the inside. How about that for Victor Bras? They've been caught with the Porsche. Oh, the 263 is going to go around, but it's not going to be caught up with anybody in the field, and looks like there's actually a second car that went off at the same place, and it was Simtech Motorsports.
Yep, Simtech have had a disaster of a race here, and we're only 15 minutes in. It was always bound to happen. This is why I said not 30 seconds ago that none of these cars want to be here, because this kind of thing can happen very, very easily. I'm sure we'll get another view of it at some point. Here it is. Chris Chatterton, side by side. There actually wasn't contact made in the end. I think he just got a bit wide and got a bit loose and spun around there completely on his own. Not sure how Simtek managed to go around. Or maybe there was a bit of contact actually on second viewing. And the Simtek one is unrelated with cube racing they got into.
There's Ted Lowendick just sweeping his way through. No doubt he will not be complaining about an extra free couple of spots after what happened to him, courtesy of Westwood. This is a look what happened to Simtek. This is with a Ferrari for cube racing, and very weird spin that one, isn't it? Very
slight contact, and not much blame that can be really apportioned there, because there wasn't really much that either of them did very wrong there. Meanwhile, not Sean Campbell, excuse me, that's Oliver Steinbratton who's got through on Tristan Iglesias. This happened in the last lap. Let's see how it happened down into the hairpin.
Just outbraked the Medici car, who tried to go for the switchback. That was a brilliant attempt for Iglesias to try to get the over-under on him into revolver, but it just wasn't happening. And a solid run there for Steinbratton to be able to break past. And now we'll see what that Mercedes can do if he can potentially put an end to Pure Sim's lead up in front with that McLaren.
Absolutely. Now that this RSR car is in front, it's really starting to make some inroads. Less than a second for the first time in a few minutes here. Eric Grove had a nice, comfortable lead not so long ago, but here is the margin now on your screen, writ large for everyone to see. Steinbratton on a mission, qualified inside the, or qualified for Q2 during the practice session by being in the top 5. Normally that doesn't make for great qualifying results by the end of it, but these guys are the exception to the rule at this stage and putting on a great show here in the race as well, as we go back to the Rusty Spatula's car getting overtaken by a couple of cars, including the reigning Pro-Am champions, Project Dynamic. There they are. A very American livery, it has to be said. A bit of contact, a little bit of damage on that car as well, which just shows the dangers of being mid-pack, really. You're bound to get into this kind of thing.
So Audi versus Lamborghini, and it will once again be the AM driver for TM Motorsports that defends. Giussano having to fight the outside line. Look out for Rusty Spatula's deep on the brakes, just in behind. They, of course, lost those 2 places because they got loose through turn 2 at Williams and were forced to yield to give them the spots to avoid being run over as a result on the apex. We've also got Olympus Esports. Matt Loveridge, the one pro car in the mix here, still trying to find him through the brake clear, but he is just getting held up left, right, and center. All the while, you've still got an AM car leading this entire train, and no doubt that is why a lot of these guys race a bit more aggressively. They want to all try to find a way through.
They certainly do. This is the train we were talking about. It was previously for 18th, but some of the cars have managed to get away, and it's now for... it is still for 18th. TR Motorsports have not quite managed to remove themselves from this just yet. V-Racers with Marco Silva just about have been able to. It's kind of reforming again after the couple of incidents we saw a couple of laps ago involving Simtek Motorsports, of course, and also Chris Chatterton of Eclipse Racing Team. Both of those spinning around, but despite the fact those two are gone, this battle continues, and Rusty Spatula's continue to be the cork in the bottle, really. Now holding up Olympus Esports and Team Oblivion Racing, most notably. Just in behind some of these shots here with 41 minutes remaining of the first race. You can see in the background there, Rusty Spatula's under a lot of pressure. Olympus Esports looking to make their way down the inside. Matt Loveridge on the inside line. Nice, easy move, and you should expect that really from a pro car making that move on a Pro-Am. A little bit close between the two through turn 6 and 7, but they make it work. And Olympus Esports up just inside 22nd position now, for 21st, excuse me, for them.
You see Chocotai Neo had tried to maybe fight back in the revolver, but just couldn't be late enough on the brakes, and that is what kept Matt Loveridge up in front with the Olympus Esports machine, but he hopped over the curb a little bit there, just clipped the wheels on the inside of that curb. That's a very risky thing to do in these GT3 cars. Very easy for the back end to just snap around on you, so a bit lucky to get away with that one. So this remains one of the closer fights he's got in the field, and particularly right at the back. You got Aaron Ackles for Kazar and Victor Brass for Team Oblivion still going at it with each other. And all the while, you've also got Okayama for TR Motorsports and Jesse Chiusano for Project Dynamics still looking to battle it out up in front. And they've actually all been catching up to Marco Silva in the V-Racers BMW. So this could be a fight here for the AM class drivers amongst themselves. That would be for 17th overall.
Yeah, certainly. There's lots of different things going on in all of the different classes, really. Leader in Pro-Am right now as well, just to kind of clear it all up entirely. Still Tim Rater for Easy Clap by TR Motorsports. Only 1.7 seconds ahead of Westwood Racing Esports, though, at this time. They are battling over 9th overall, or will be a little bit later on here in this race. So the battle for the lead, 3 of them covered by 1 second, but no positional changes being made really for these guys. At Circuit the Americas in the first race especially, we saw 3 for the lead for the first stint here, Nolan, but then the pit stops happened and one of these teams was able to get away very easily indeed. Is history going to repeat itself here today, or are these 3, well, and these 3 I suppose, but are the leading 3 going to stay very close for the remainder of this race?
They've all remained within 1 second since the drop of the green flag, so I imagine it is going to be a similar story. They could be close at least till the pit stops, and those pit stops could very well be the deciding factor in this race. Watching the fight for 5th place, Adam Isaacson thinking about a move up the inside of Sean Campbell into the hairpin corner, opted against it. You still got Andreas Thiel for G3 Motorsports, just tucked in line, just seeing what he can potentially make up as well in the 173 Lamborghini just in behind. And that's what you got to do, right? You got to just sometimes be patient. Now that the race is settling into its rhythm, you need to kind of pick your battles, right? It's not worth going forward when you can't go for it. Oh, Aaron Ackles for Kazar having a big moment out of Williams.
I believe this is the best qualifying car from the AM category, and they're now all the way down in 29th and at the last car on the lead lap, I'm afraid. Reece Carl in the Pure Sims Esports Lamborghini has managed to get back out there again, and he is running 5 laps down just to get those points, basically, from this race. They do need some. They haven't got any yet, so they do need some. But yeah, that's the big damage, I'm afraid, for Aaron Ackles. The leader at the moment, is Marco Silva in the V-Races car. TR Motorsports, as we've previously discussed, hounding them at the moment. This is 5-Star Motorsport, though, just behind Sean Campbell. Now, about this time yesterday, Sean Campbell was doing an 8-hour race.
Hello.
It's Pure Sims. Eric Grove has been off, I think, on his own at turn 4, or has he been pushed? That's a big moment in this race as the leader is off the road. All of a sudden, Tristan Iglesias has got the chance to take the lead here because he's very close, running down towards the hairpin. Is he going to go for it? No, he doesn't. But that's a huge moment in this race. Pure Sims down to 8th.
It's falling apart for Pure Sims again. Once again, they start off so well and just get collected right at some of the worst possible opportunities as Simtech has come into pit road. Sean Campbell will hold on to 4th place now, and I do believe there was a little bit of contact with RSR to send the Pure Sims McLaren around and out of the race league. Adam Isaacson continues to try to push his way up to RSR, and Sean Campbell will have a bit of work cut out for him to try to reel in the 4th place Audi of Cedric Nepelsek. That means that battle for the race lead is now a 2-horse race.
It certainly is. RSR and Maniti looking to kind of work together really to stay ahead of the rest, but Pure Sims are going to be very disappointed with that. I'm sure we'll get a replay of what happened. Here it is, coming down in towards turn 4. Did he jump or was he pushed? Oh, he was pushed.
Oh, wow.
Late on the brakes, a misjudgment from Ole Steinbreiten, and that has cost Pure Sims dearly there. RSR surely going to receive some kind of penalty for that one.
The good news with the McLaren, they haven't lost too much time. They're down to 8th place now, and only about 8.7 seconds off of the race leaders. So the potential is still there for them to at least get some serious points. They were pulling away from everybody really tucked in behind. You can actually see the McLaren just at the back of the shot as well. So it's not over yet. They can still get some very, very decent points for the faster of their 2 cars today. They'll just have to hope that they don't get caught up in any other further incidents as the night goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. Though this is, oh that was, excuse me, a very big moment in the course of this race. As we get to 35 minutes remaining in this race, the pit lane will be now open for these guys to come in. Come in right now if they want to, but deciding not to. Everybody has to come in and make a driver change in the next 10 minutes, excuse me, until there's 25 minutes to go here in this race. And for those that will not be swapping driver today, which you can do once a season, you have to do a 30-second pit stop to kind of account for that. Through turn 1 and 2, once again in this fight. Doesn't really look like the positions are going to change here before the pit stop though. I feel like these guys are just happy to sit here where they are and wait for those pit stops and then hopefully jump this Mercedes through that little cycle.
The Lamborghini of Adam Isaacson really deep on the brakes, trying to close on the Sean Campbell. And I imagine Isaacson is trying to get past Campbell before they come into pit road. And that's what you got to do, right? Because it, of course, can be so difficult to pass once you get new drivers in the cars. I think Adam Isaacson just wants to get by so he can be in a better position when it comes to pit exit. Olympus, Cube, World of Sim Racing, Kazar, and SimTech all in the pit road this time by. That was cars at the very end of the field. So we're going to continue to observe your fights here for these top positions, and we'll see what they can do, if there will be any unique pit calls to be made, or if they're all going to be coming in at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I found that somewhat unlikely, but you never know. We've seen stranger things. As we go past the pit lane once more, these guys deciding to stay out. You can decide quite late here, really. I know it's a very early in terms of, it's quite a long pit entry lane, if you like. But you can decide to tuck in quite late because it's quite close to the racing line, really. So you can make a late call. But nobody from the top 10 deciding to so far. Only those a little bit further down making pit stops so far. Still the top 24 to come into the pit lane here. I'm a little bit surprised by that, especially by cars like this one. The 5-star motorsport car completely stuck behind RSR here, but not decided to go to the pit lane at all yet.
Maybe just wants to have some fun when you do get out on the track, right? I mean, that's something that I've heard as a bit of an excuse for that sometimes before. Drivers just want to have a little bit of fun with each other while they're racing forward. And hey, can't say I blame him, but now you can see Campbell really starting to be put on defense. Eisen looking for the inside, but it's actually a little bit deeper in the race for Sean Campbell, and even later on the race for Andreas Thiel, to the point where Thiel had to bail out high side through the hairpin corner at turn 5. So Adam Isaacson continues to hold the 5-star motorsport Lamborghini dressed up behind the RSR Mercedes. They're starting to catch Diego Vasquez and the World of Sim Racing BMW, who had already come on down into pit road.
See, once again, as they come through these corners, a couple of cars one lap down now after having made their stops. Like that World of Sim Racing Amcar, you can just see in front of these guys now. The pit stop made for the 173 T3 Motorsport by Maniti Lamborghini. They come down pit lane, as you can see there on the left-hand side. The first team inside the top 10 to do so. And very importantly, the 117 of Pure Sims Esports. Eric Grove is going to be coming out of that car absolutely furious.
Still one race to go. It is not over just yet. No doubt that's what Sean Campbell is thinking in his fight for the 4th position, as he has caught Diego Vasquez and is now being held up by a lap traffic. So pit stops will continue to cycle on through as drivers are going to hop on out and new people are going to hop in to take control of the race cars. Adam Isaacson sticking close with Sean Campbell. This is actually going to work out brilliantly for Campbell here, though. Look at how he's getting the big toe thanks to World of Sim Racing. Maybe we're going to look for the inside into the hairpin corner here. This could get tight if Vasquez doesn't let them through. He will give them the space to break their way through. Both drivers slot through, and I think, honestly, the fact that World of Sim Racing was right there honestly saved Campbell from being overtaken into the hairpin that time by.
Yeah, it's very possible. These things do happen. We talk about lap cars being used by those trying to get through, but sometimes they can be used by those trying to defend in terms of keeping your opponent behind. For the final couple of hairpins again. And is there going to be a reaction this time? We saw Maniti in last lap around. Oh, there's a late... This is what I mean about having a late call. You can choose very, very late here. The RSR car deciding this time that Sean Campbell wants to be in, and the 101 of Tristan Iglesias will be in to bring in Tim Matsker, of course, to that car here as well. Now, all these things have to shake out, of course, but where are these guys going to come out? That is the all-important question here, but a few more pit stops starting to be made now on the halfway mark.
What I found a bit amusing about that as well is I'm pretty sure 5-Star tried to react but couldn't turn in time due to the very, very late call. So Campbell hops out. Boris Angel Ovando will hop into the 169. We'll see what Ovando can do for RSR machine. There you see one of the other drivers tucking in line. That is Deal's Testers of Vector by Vector by RSR coming to the pit road to the 171. The other Vector by RSR, Ted Lowerding, in the pit road this time by as well. And there is the other RSR machine out there on the racetrack, currently in the race lead. So the 167 has inherited the race lead at this point, and we'll see what he'll be able to do in his Mercedes, as this could prove to be a bit of an interesting run so far for the RSR crew.
It certainly could. Are they going to react here? I don't want Tim Matska running out on his own for too long, surely. But Steinbretten's very confident in his pace here. But, well, he's taken that late call in, so there we are. Into the pit lane again. Very hard to tell, but we certainly know now. Into the pit lane he comes, and will be making his stop now. Was the pit stop time normal for Matska? It was indeed, 30.7 seconds, almost right on the mark, even a little bit quicker than the one for the 169 RSR by Bookkicker car, which is 32 seconds. They've come out just in front of the 173, and Michael Evdoka in the Pure Sims McLaren has made great progress actually in this one with the with that pit stop. So where is Steinbretten going to be in relation to Tim Matska? There is Matska in the main part of your screen in the reigning champions car, the 101, looking to take the third win in a row for that car here. Through the final turn, is that Mercedes going to pop out in front or not? That's the question. He needs to get going soon, and he does now. Out the pit lane here, but I think Matska's going to have it over the line. He goes again. It's going to be side by side into one. Oh, dearie me, very close. But the German looks like he's going to make his way around the outside and into the lead here, is he? Inside line for Maniti, but around the outside for Team RSR, making it all the way around. A very good job from Alex Urenga to hold on here through turn 3, inside line, and he might just hold on into 4, and he's just about done it. That was very impressive.
What a fight there for Alex Urenga to get himself that solid of a run, as Tim Matske now going to actually be in the car, and now we'll see what Matske can do. Looks to the left-hand side. This fight not over yet. Deeper on the brakes with a 101. Oh, contact! Whoa. And that's going to shove Beniti out wide, and Urenga going to hold the inside line, and that is going to leave Matske a little bit angry, I would imagine, as it looked to me like the 167 might have turned into them a little bit as they got pushed out wide for the corner entry.
Yeah, look a little bit like that. They might have something to say, but it was very small contact, and if they end up winning this race anyway, then I don't think they'll care. So 27, just under 27 minutes to go, just under 2 minutes until the pit window closes. We still have 4 cars to make their pit stops. As you can see, RSO, 3 cars, because Rusty Spatulas have just come in now for the Pro-Am 4th place it was at the time. The Pro-Am leader, currently leading the overall race as well, Tim Rater. Still showing that he's not lost any form in the recent weeks. He's very quick indeed, as you might be able to imagine. Luden's Racing and VC Sim Racing also out there in front of these guys right now. But otherwise, this order is pretty much settled, and it's a straight fight between RSR and Maniti, and that is exactly what we want to see.
Interesting run for Cedric Nebelsek and the Team RSO 197 that I just want to quickly point out as we continue to watch this battle develop. He is still in the car, didn't go for the driver change, yet his pit stop was still 3 seconds longer than the 2 you're watching right now. So that is why you see the Team RSO car that was at 1.2 seconds ahead of these guys, now so far back. I wonder what on earth has happened there.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. But then again, I think these two are the fastest in the field anyway. They're just getting away from everybody at this point. But either way, not really sure right now. Pure Sims Esports 117, by the way, has done a fairly decent job here. Back up into what is going to be 5th place. Right on the back of RSR by G Performance as well. So possibly a top 5 coming in here. I'd like to say a big welcome to everybody watching on VCO Esports through their Twitch. We've just gone live out there to them, and it's a very good time to join us, to be honest, because we've got 25 minutes to go, and we've got two of the best teams in iRacing setting things up for a very, very good finale here in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series first race at Okayama. Alex Urenga has got a tall order here to defend from Tim Matska, but he is certainly capable of doing it.
See more drivers cycling through into pit road. That was Easy Clap. Luda's racing the VEC Sim Racing Rouge that all came into pit road. So this battle that you're watching at the moment is the battle for the race lead now, and this could be an almighty fight here. Tim Matske trying to keep close to Alex Urenga in the 167 RSR machine, and you're going to have that Munich Racing Lamborghini trying to make a run, and you will notice that there's a bit of an illumination now with the headlights on the racing surface. We're getting set to race into the evening as Munich almost runs over the Mercedes, and sun is starting to set, and Matske using the advantage of the cooling track temperatures to his benefit. The track is getting more racy, and you can tell right there by how aggressive he's being through these medium speed corners.
Yeah, very aggressive indeed. Inside line for Maniti now. Matska trying to make this work, and a lot of space given by Alex Urenga, maybe too much, into turn 9, and he might have given this lead away here through the final couple of corners. We've seen side by side here in the past. Iglesias was able to hold on around there, and now Matska is able to take the lead around the outside there. Urenga's big mistake really was made there through turn 8. He gave far too much room to that Lamborghini.
Oh boy, so Alex Urenga with a bit of a mistake there on just leaving too much room for Tim Matska. I have to agree with you on that one. I mean, the Munich Racing Lamborghini just seemed to be so much stronger on the acceleration. That's the thing about the Lamborghini, right? You can really attack corner exits so much more than you can in the Mercedes, and that is what has really helped Munich Racing there to kind of get ahead, but it is worth noting that Urenga could stay close and could continue to hound the back end if he can just keep in the draft and attack more and more into these tighter corners at the hairpin. Will there be a move made this time by? It doesn't look like there will be, and Matske starting to extend the gap for the race lead.
Meanwhile, Pure Sims Esports, Michael Abducker, this is on the defensive though for once on 5-Star Motorsport, who actually got jumped in the pit stops, I believe, quite badly. They were just behind RSR by G Performance, if you remember, and now all of a sudden this car is down in 6th place. Rooney Janssens is the driver now. Rudy Notfeld for T3 by Maniti as well is here. It's a free car battle. But yeah, this McLaren looking to just get a top 5 here, and given the trials and tribulations of today, they were down in 8th not so long ago. A top 5 would not be the worst result in the world.
That wouldn't be a bad result at all, considering they got punted out, but I'm pretty sure the only thing on Avdaka's mind, and no doubt Eric Grove's mind as well, is that they were leading this race, and now they find us all the way down here. Rowan Janssens, oh, huge tank slapper on the braking zone. What in the world? I think they put the grass when they hit the braking zone, but that was a ginormous save, and that is car control in its finest forms right there in the HyperX GT Sprint Series.
That was unbelievable. I'm not sure how he held on to that really, but somehow Janssens is still on the straight and narrow here and continues in 6th position. But yeah, Michael Abducker, or Eric Grove at least, watching, will have been having flashbacks there, because he would have thought that his car was going to be rear-ended for the 2nd time here today, and that would really add to the frustration of a little bit of a disappointing race for them already in this one. So 21 minutes remaining here at Okayama. It's T3 Motorsport by Maniti leading by just over half a second ahead of RSR by Primis. Team RSR are on the podium currently, but getting pressure from behind now. RSR by G Performance applying that. We're currently looking at Pure Sims Esports in their McLaren, they're 5th, holding on from 5-Star Motorsports and T3 Motorsport by Maniti. Just a little bit further down, Easy Clap by TR Motorsports and Westwood Racing Esports are only separated by a couple of seconds for the Pro-Am lead. And in the AM category, Team Oblivion Racing have been able to get out in front of V Racers here after the pit stop cycle. But it's all going on a little bit behind. V Racers just got back in front here by the looks of things. Nuno Costa, that is now into the lead of this category, and Vector by RSR getting into the mix as well.
That's a pro car getting into the mix of this one here. So Luke Burtonshaw trying to get past Casper Amont. And Team Oblivion is going to go too deep into the braking zone of Redmond, but I think they kind of just let Burtonshaw have that one there. So the pro car gets past the AM car. And actually, this could be a good strategy here for Casper Amont. He knows that the Vector by RSR machine will be close enough to reel him in to Nuno Costa. Does he maybe think that if he can stick with the track of the Mercedes, that the BMW could hold up the Merc long enough so that Amont could have a run back at him?
Well, let's see. Meanwhile, side by side, the 169 trying to get around the Team RSO car. Oh, and that was a squeeze. That was contact going through turns 7 and 8. I have to say, 6 and 7, excuse me. Have to say there wasn't much room given there by the RSO car, currently being driven by Cedric Nibusek here once again. The Mercedes was definitely there. Oh, as the McLaren's gone around for the second time here in one race. It's not their day. Michael Abdoka gets going again, but he falls down even behind the first of the Pro-Am cars.
And I don't think this was out. Oh, it was with help. The 5-star motorsports car this time sending Abdoka around. That's got to be frustrating, right? I mean, you've been running an almost perfect race, and this is the second time now that you've been punted first out of the lead and now out of the top 5. They got to be thinking at this point, it's like, we can't even have that. Come on.
And even, I would say anyway, neither of them, their fault is, in my opinion, but I'm not a steward. But yes, I don't think they were really at fault for either of those. Either way, down to 9th, 8th in the pro rankings, and a very disappointing day for them. However, silver linings and all that, they will get a better starting position for the second part of this race, of course, when we, for the second race, I should say, when we're going to reverse the top 20. They're going to be ahead of arguably all of their rivals for that race, and maybe get a bit of a better result there. We'll wait and see, of course.
Not a whole lot of battles so far going on throughout the field. It really is just like this for the most part. Everybody just kind of running in a bit more of a processional and orderly fashion, except for this fight back here with Vector by RSR trying to close up to the V Racers BMW. This is again a pro on AM, so this is only a battle for overall track position, not for in-class track position. This is all the way back in 19th place for the time being. Gap is just under a quarter of a second, and Luke Burtonshaw starting to close in on Nuno Costa. Looks for the inside, shows this hand. Costa not going to give it to him so easily. Vector RSR kind of showed the door and asked for an invitation to be let through, and well, I think to say Costa denied said invite was a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, he's not going to let him roll on past here. Let's not forget this is the lower part of the top 20, the all-important top 20 for the reverse grid next race. So V Racers will want to stay here. If you remember back to Circuit in the Americas, none of the AM cars managed to get inside the top 20 during the first race and get the benefit of a reverse grid. Kept things very close, and it ultimately helped World of Sim Racing to the championship lead. But they're going to lose it here at Okayama by the looks of things, judging by the way this race is going at the moment anyway, because yeah, V Racers are holding on quite well, and if they get the top 20 and neither or none of their AM rivals get the top 20, I should say, then they'll be in a fantastic place for this second race. They'll get a big head start on all of their rivals, but of course they'll be in more traffic and they will have to stay out of trouble, so that's all to worry about in 15 minutes time. But for now, Ted Lowendick's job is just to get through here and try and get as many positions as he possibly can. Olympus Esports is the next pro car up in front here. And that's nearly 10 seconds down the road, so if he wants to make an impression on them, he's going to have to get through as quickly as possible, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Down the inside of the hairpin, pretty routine stuff really, considering the situation these two find themselves in.
Burtonshaw making a bit of an easy overtake there. You saw Nuno Costa make a slight defense, and I don't know if Costa expected for the Vector by RSR Mercedes to go down the inside, but I have a feeling one of the big reasons why Nuno Costa didn't want for the Merc to get through is because they obviously don't want Team Oblivion to close on up as well, because that would be the fight for the final position, as the 20th place at the moment is Nuno Costa. And hello, who's this? That is the Eclipse Racing Team. Sam Mee having another off in the 263 Pro-Am Porsche. So look at this, and oh, just braking when you clip the grass. That's not the line, and slides into the grass, bit of shot tires, but other than that, no hard, no foul.
Fortunately for them, managed to keep it out of the barriers. Will have lost positions to Cube Racing and Valorous Motorsports in terms of their Pro-Am standing, but at least they're still going in this race. Meanwhile, this is going on for the final podium position. RSR want a double podium. RSO would like their first podium of the season in this one. It wasn't a very good circuit in the Americas at all for the Audis in general, really. Never mind just this Audi. Runners up in the 21 fall season, of course, looking to get themselves off to a better start in this championship here at Okayama. The Audi seemingly a bit more favourable around here, really. No idea why it didn't really work at the circuit in the Americas, but it just wasn't their day. This looking like a much better performance from Cedric Nebusek, who's on his own here today.
Cedric Nebusek is on his own, and of course you do get that one race where you are allowed to go in without having to make a driver change, but it's only one of the season, so they're taking that one early in just the second round of the season. And you saw Boris Angel Ovando that time by a look for the move into Atwood curve, and that's only going to open up the door, unfortunately, for Nebusek to get the hammer down early out of the corner and start to pull away, something that Ovando really was not able to do. Oh, that's deep on the brakes, though, for RSR. And that 169 car is starting to get really, really aggressive, isn't he? Trying to look around left, right, center. I wonder if he's maybe trying to scare Nebusek to give it in the spot.
Well, almost. Let's not forget, they've had 2 third places already this season in the RSR by G Performance car. So they're very used to finishing on the bottom step of the podium, and they're going to want to repeat that here. And judging by the way that the pressure's being applied here by Boris Angel Ovando, the move may be on here for this Mercedes to make things work. Seen it in the YouTube chat a couple of moments ago, some people mentioning it's really not a Mercedes track, but there's one in second and possibly third here as well. So the balance of performance working pretty well, as we say almost every time here at the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. There's different manufacturers everywhere, and even the McLaren can be competitive in this series, which of course we like to see. And yeah, the Mercedes are having a good run out here as well, despite the fact it's becoming a less favourable car these days.
It's been unfortunate for Pearson, isn't it? Because I mean, they were having such a good run earlier in the race, and just again getting punted out not once but twice, and both times with no fault of their own. Still in the top 10, still have the opportunity to take advantage of a full reverse grid, or of a top 20 reverse grid, but it still has to be frustrated, no doubt, for that whole outfit, knowing that they could have been up and potentially winning this race. You can still see Ovando looking to pressure Nebusek. This is at the moment one of the top closest groupings so far in this field. Looks like at the 9th have just traded hands themselves, but this is the fight to watch. It is for the final podium position, and looks like it's not going away anytime soon.
No, certainly not. If Nebusek is going to hold on here, he's going to do it under sustained pressure from this Mercedes. There's no doubt about that. There's a car length 4-2 just opening up between the two right now. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, the very front, D3 Motorsport by Maniti and Tim Matska is starting to pull away. Over 2 seconds now ahead of Alex Urenga. Almost 2.5 seconds at this stage for the reigning champions. And of course, the 2-time race winners from this season already. Looking to make it 3 in a row. Looking like a very, very good performance from this man once again. Tim Matska is almost unstoppable. He certainly was in qualifying, and he is once again here in the race. Alex Urenga doesn't look like he's got anything in answer to the pace shown by the 101 right now.
I have to agree with you there. I mean, so far, there's just nothing that the 101 has done wrong. Maniti have about a foot wrong all race long. They have been just on top of it from start to finish thus far. And you can see Ovando once again making a look to the inside line. And honestly, I think it's those little looks that are really hampering the 169 Mercedes, right? Because obviously we've established this before that the Mercedes is really not the best when it comes to corner exit. And obviously that doesn't help whenever you're making looks at the inside and you're already a little bit offline. I would say tuck it into the racing line, but you cannot be, making these very, very early turns if you want to capitalize on exit, because that's where the Audi is good, is on corner exit.
It certainly has proved to be so far. Trying to cling on to this third place. Best performing Audi, by the way, by a mile, this car. I think the next one is the 134 Ingersoll car. It is indeed, because the Luden's car just in front, excuse me, is the best performing Audi, but they're all the way outside the top 10. This is the only one inside of the top 10. They're fighting for a podium here. Ibusek, very good drive from him once again. He was very impressive last season, I'm sure you remember, on multiple occasions. Getting some great results and some nice race wins throughout the events as well. But having to go on the defensive this time. Once again, that traction becoming quite useful. Slipstream down the back straight, in towards the hairpin. Is that RSR car close enough for Ovando to make this move? He looks to the inside line. RSO defend a little bit late here. Nibusek, they make a little bit of contact. Oh, a little bit more on the exit. Oh. And a little bit more. Into turn 6 goes the 2. But Nibusek holds on again.
Only just, though, and I have to say, if they had to get their elbows out there, they wanted to hold on to that one. That got a bit more physical, I think we might have liked, but they managed to survive it all. Looks like there's not too much damage, if any, on Boris Angelo Vando's machine. So that 169 still has an opportunity to go for podium, but he's got to hurry up here, right? You've got yourself 9 minutes left to go. Time is rapidly starting to run out. Here from Okayama. And if he wants to get himself up there, he's going to have to get a much better run, as you saw 5-star taking on the track excursion just behind these guys.
I have a feeling as well that because of how difficult it is to overtake here, and also the way Nibusek is defending, that Vando's going to have to get his elbows out a little bit more than he has been doing in previous times. He's allowed himself in the last couple of attempts to get shoved out quite easily. I think if he wants to get through here, he needs to be that little bit more aggressive. Obviously not just shove the other car out the way, that's not allowed of course, but you just need to get his elbows out maybe a little bit more than he has done in the previous attempts. Let's see if there is another one here. We're getting down towards the final moments of this race now, so it's really now or never. Down the inside quite possibly. Nibusek was waiting for it this time though, and he's able to defend quite easily.
And there's the flash of the headlights from Ovando. I was wondering when they were going to start showing up, right? They're a lot more apparent now, though, that you can see the headlight beams on the racetrack as we get set to continue to go racing into the evening. It is just 5 past 6 o'clock p.m. in sim time, so it is getting a little bit later now in the evening. It looks like race 2, if the time continues in this manner, will be run almost entirely under darkness from the Okayama racing circuit, which iRacing obviously brings this whole other set of unique challenges. These drivers will be grateful that they had race 1 in the daylight to get a bit of practice in.
Over the line again, 7 minutes remaining. Trying to get through here any which way he can for Boris Angelo Vando, but no way through, especially not through turn 1 and 2. It's all about staying close through here. Down through turn 3, which is not really a corner, or not one that you have to think about anyway. And then turn 4, the all-important turn 4, upward curve, as it is called. Getting the traction through while you're still turning, quite difficult. The traction control will help with that, of course. But it sets you up nicely for this back straight, which leads to the all-important hairpin. Is Ovando close enough for another attempt for the 3rd lap in a row, quite possibly? Inside, then outside. Nibusek doing exactly what he did last time, and with just the same amount of success. Ovando really not forcing the issue whatsoever.
He's also coming very, very late from RSO. And what that tells me is he's driving out of his mirrors a little bit here, right? Or I guess you could say the rear bumper camera that is mounted in most of these cars. And I think that is at the moment what is really kind of hampering Team RSO and their ability to try to go for a specific higher up the order. They're too busy focusing on defense, but they really don't have a choice, right? Because Ovando has shown that they can put that Mercedes up into third place, and wouldn't that be something, right? I mean, this is not by any means a Mercedes track, but wouldn't that be something to have a Mercedes on second and a third? And that would be, of course, the top two of just 3 Mercedes so far in the entire field.
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon we still might have 5 laps to go here. I think that we're going to come across the line with very few seconds remaining, or the leader is anyway, because we've got to remember these guys are nearly 12 seconds back now from Tim Matzke. Now this is a bit of a battle a little bit further up. For 7th place, Michael Evdoka on his recovery drive. He was spun around, of course, and so was Eric Grove earlier on in this race, down this corner indeed that they're at now, the Atwood curve, and they're trying to recover from that and get as many points as possible. This pass here will be worth 6 if you can make it work on this Lamborghini. The McLaren famously quick in a straight line, almost unbeatable at Monza, to be honest, back in the day. Around the outside at the hairpin. Is there a move to be done here? If he can stay there, he'll have the inside line for 6, but can't quite for the moment. He's got a few minutes to go until the end of this race, and in that time, he might just be able to make this move.
It's a solid effort from Pearson, and the opportunity is still very much there. There's about 4.5 minutes now left on the clock, so they still have time to get themselves up into a top 7 position here. That would be the highest spot at this point that he could score, would be 7th place if he can get past XBD Emerald Racing for the time being through the last corner. And there's going to be no move made through the final corner. Potentially, though, into turn number 1. I don't think there will be anything there, though. Still 3/10 back. Not going to be nearly close enough into the brake zone to have a look this time by. But into hairpin, the possibility is always there. But I think Evdoka will have to get a solid run out of Atwood to make it count.
Certainly will. There's pretty much no other way you can make a move at this circuit, as proved so far in this race. He gets very close through those high-speed corners there, or the medium-speed corners, I should say, at 1 and 2. And you can almost have a look at turn 4 here, but half-hearted runs like that really isn't going to help, because it's going to ruin his run onto the back straight and in towards the hairpin. He'll do well to even put the Lamborghini under any pressure here into the hairpin this time. Avando applying the pressure as well, just up in front, but not able to get through. What about Evdoka? Is he able to go around the outside here and make this move? Nope, not really. He's going for the switchback line though, and maybe the outside line into 6 will set him up nicely for 7. Although there's not really much space here to do anything, and they stay behind one another once more.
Again, solid effort, but efforts are not going to be able to really get you anywhere. You have to really commit, and Evdoka is trying. You can see he's getting a bit more aggressive now. He knows there's not a lot of time left, 2-3 laps left at the very most at the moment. So Evdoka has got to do everything he can to try to find a way through sooner as opposed to later. If he can get past XPD Emerald Racing and Juan Parado Jr., I would not doubt that Evdoka will be able to run away with 7th position. He's right on board now with Evdoka, and look up at the XBD Emerald Racing Lamborghini. If he can get by him, he'll absolutely run away with it, but he has to get by him first. And at this track, catching is one thing, passing very much another.
Passing has proved to be very, very difficult indeed. Down towards turn 4 again. Now this is the all-important turn, but once again he's making a lunge. Oh, and this time it's with more conviction. On the inside line through turn 4. Has he quite got the run here on the exit? Very close between the two, as they're both struggling for traction side by side up in front as well. With Avando on the outside line, Nibusek holds on there. But Evdoka, can he stay in front here of the Lamborghini? He's on the inside line, but he's not got his nose in front despite the straight line speed advantage. Although now he should have the move done. Through the hairpin they go. They're still side by side though. This is not over. He's on the outside line for the next 3 corners. Through 6 and 7, he goes wide. He gets things a little bit wrong. And it looks like XPD Emerald Racing are going to hold on here at the moment. Inside line again for turn 8. What a good battle this is, with a couple of laps to go. Evdoka once again though can't make his way through. He dives again and still can't make this work.
Oh, this is an almighty fight. Evdoka just now breaks through, twins the curb, gets loose. That allows Parado the fight back over on the outside. Oh, he gets sideways himself though, and that opens the door for Mark Stevens from Ludens Racing, which did trade hands with Easy Clap. Easy Clap let him through, blocked down to the pit wall. Mark Stevens trying to go for it against XPD Emerald Racing. And Ludens up the inside at turn 1. Audi on Lamborghini, and Juan Parada Jr. cannot defend against that one. He had the nose in, but it looks like Stevens will be able to have to tuck in line, actually. Couldn't hang it around the outside line as Parada Jr. just cut the nose off.
Absolutely. Ludens Racing have gained time hand over fist recently with this battling going on. Meanwhile, speaking of battling, Nibusek's defending again. But Avando's moves at the moment very predictable. The closest he got was 1 lap ago, and even then he wasn't even side by side at this point, so still struggling to make his way through. See a car off there on the right hand side of your screen. I think it was World Sim Racing, but there's still going to be one more after this one, because Tim Matska is going to come across the line with a few seconds to go here, and so we're going to be able to complete another lap. And meanwhile, a little bit further back, by the way, Ludens Racing were able to get ahead of XPD Emu Racing. So it's all going on in the final few laps of this race, but I really can't see this battle for third changing at all, judging by what we've seen so far.
And now we are going to be finding ourselves now on the final lap of this race as the white flag is waving for the field. Time has just expired on the clock, so we are now on the last lap of race 1 from Okayama, and I don't think this fight back here is going to be changing at all as well, now that everything is starting to split apart. I mean, realistically, just the fight for third place left on the racetrack. There is race leader Tim Matsky from ADT Racing down to the hairpin for the final time.
And it's basically a lap of honour for him at this point. He'll be used to this, because they've won many a time in this series before, including twice already this season. We've only had 2 races before this. It's going to be a 3rd win in a row for the reigning champions here at Okayama. Meanwhile, further back, Nibusek is holding on. Boris Avando not being able to make his way through. But stamping his mark on this championship once again is Tim Matska. It's another race victory for T3 Motorsport by Maniti in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. It's now 3 out of 3 for the reigning champions. Tim Matska with the honour of taking the checkered flag. It's another dominant display from these guys. Over 4 seconds at the line ahead of RSR by Buckinger. Not a bad day for Alex Urenga, finishing in 2nd. RSO will be happy with 3rd as well, as you can see with the other RSR car finishing in 4th. But Maniti once again taking the race win. You'll just be able to see now that the Easy Clap by TR Motorsports car will be coming over the line just ahead of Westwood Racing Esports to hold on to the Pro-Am win. There they go on the left-hand side, flashing the lights as they go. And further back in the AM battle, it's now nearly 8 seconds between V-Racers and Team Oblivion Racing, who are embroiled in a battle for the top 20, of course, all important. But V-Racers are going to take a victory in the AM category. So an entertaining race here at Okayama that ends in the darkness, but it ends with a very familiar finish.
A finish that provided by far some of the most exciting races you could possibly find when it comes to GT3 racing at the Okayama Racing Circuit. This is, again, as we discussed before, not a track where you are able to realistically overtake easily, but they certainly made it work for themselves today. There's still a whole nother hour's worth of racing coming on up in about 15 minutes time.
Absolutely, and of course we look forward to that. But for now, Tim Matska can enjoy the victory that he has earned ahead of RSR by Primus. Team RSO with a podium there just under 13 seconds back. RSR by G Performance with 4th, ahead of 5-Star Motorsport in 5th. T3 Motorsport by Maniti with Rudy Notfeld taking that car over the line. They finished 6th, ahead of Pure Sims Esports, recovering to 7th. Ludens Racing managed to get into the 8th position with a late charge. XPD Emerald Racing losing a couple of places late on to finish 9th. And the Pro-Am winners, Easy Clap by TR Motorsports, round out your top 10. Then it was Westwood Racing Esports in the 2nd Pro-Am car. Ingersoll Randanosis were 12th ahead of VEC Sim Racing. The Pro-Am Maniti car was 14th ahead of Vector by OSR in 15th. Project Dynamics 16th ahead of Vector by OSR. Rusty Spatulas were next ahead of the AM winners V-Racers, with Oblivion Racing with a pass on the final lap getting inside the all-important top 20. Olympus Esports just miss out from the Pro category. Valorous Motorsports also missed out by a fine margin. Eclipse Racing Team, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Diego Vasquez with a late spin at the final couple of hairpins there, finished one lap down for World of Sim Racing, ahead of TR Motorsports and Cube Racing, who were also one lap down. Then Kazar Sim Racing, who had issues throughout the day. That was Pure Sims Esports with their crash on lap 1, of course, or pitting after lap 1, I should say. Kazar Sim Racing 29th, excuse me, and then SimTech Motorsport with a number of issues, finishing in 30th ahead of Ingersoll Randonausis with that very large accident at the end of the first few laps here in this race. Well, that's it for race 1. And yeah, that will be waiting for race 2 now. We'll see if we maybe get any drivers in for an interview, but it's unlikely. We'll talk about the first race though, of course, and we'll preview the second one, the reverse grid race, over the next few moments, of course. Here, Nolan, and first thoughts on the first race here. I mean, predictable winner, I guess, but unpredictable racing and slightly better racing actually than maybe we were expecting heading into this.
Isn't that kind of the trend though for us at this point in time? Like, we ask ourselves, how many overtakes are we going to have this race? We usually think, probably not too many. It's a track where it's hard to overtake at. And then they just completely turn it on its head and just absolutely just smash the field here. They just tear the racetrack up using every last inch of the racing surface. It is just absolutely unbelievable the type of race that these guys can produce at any track. I think it's safe to say at this point, realistically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be the hardest on the calendar either, I would say. Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks is going to be quite difficult. Looking at the rest of this calendar here. Long Beach as well, very tight and twisty. Don't know how that's going to quite play out. And of course, the Charlotte Roval, which is now, 4 years old, as we were reminded a couple of weeks ago. That's quite a sobering thought. And then Mount Panorama Bathurst, of course, iconic at GT racing circuit and motor racing circuit, really in many forms, to round out our season. A great place to have a championship finale here. But are we still going to have a fight by the time we get there? I mean, the guys who were very close to Maniti after circuit in the Americas didn't have a great time of things during this race here. I reckon those guys have already got more than 50 points over the field here. It's just a case of how can they get through the reverse grid here. They'll be starting 20th. Tim Matsker or Tristan Iglesias, whoever decides to start the car. And they're going to have their work cut out for this one. But they did at circuit in the Americas and they were able to produce a win there. So you never know. It's possible.
Not to mention, you've also got the challenges of a night race as well, right? And night racing in of its own, right, is a significant challenge because you got yourself, slightly less visibility. But usually a lot of tracks, at least stateside, they have lights around them, right? I mean, Daytona Road Course is completely lit now to allow for stock car racing to go there. But you also have to keep in mind as well the fact that, this track doesn't have any night lighting. The lighting that you see from these guys' headlights is the only light that is going to be on this track by the time you hit the checkered flag. That is going to mean that this could be a significantly more challenging race to drive as opposed to actually race each other on.
It certainly could. We're just over 10 minutes away now from race 2 here at Okayama. We're going to take a very quick break here on Racebot TV, and when we return, we will be building up to the second race here at Okayama for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here this afternoon. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Okayama here in warm-up just before the second race here this afternoon. It's the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series Round 2 of the 2024 spring season, excuse me. We do indeed have a driver waiting for us to interview him before we get into the second race here today. Tim Matsker, of course, who drove so well for Maniti in the second half of the first race here. Welcome, Tim. It's good to have you in the commentary box. Talk to us about that stint there. You were in a great battle with Alex Urenga at the start of it. You were in the lead by the end. Just talk us through what was going through your mind as you were fighting that RSR Mercedes.
Hello, guys. Yeah, well, we knew we had a bit of a different tire strategy today, so we started with a little bit more fuel to be able to change 2 tires in the pits, which we knew would probably not be the most likely option for most, and that's why, yeah, I was just trying to stay patient, making my tire advantage play out, and was a bit of contact, close fighting. Obviously, not an easy track to overtake. Just waited for the chance really, and then went for it, and yeah, it was nice.
You mentioned there that it's not an easy track to overtake on. You're starting in 20th place for this race, of course, due to the reverse grid. You've been in this situation before, of course, but how do you think it's going to go in terms of making your way through traffic on this occasion?
Oh, I think you can't really expect anything or plan of anything. You just got to look ahead and then see if there's a gap on track. There will probably be some incidents on lap 1 with how this track is, T2, on cold tires. With different skill levels mixed up is going to be quite hectic, so I would certainly look out for some incidents exiting turn 2, maybe T1. I hope everyone gets through cleanly, and then it will be more of a patience game. But if there's a bit more hectic scenes at the start, then we'll just need to be patient and try to make it through unscratched, really.
That is, of course, the aim. And one final thing as well before we let you go and get yourselves ready for race 2. Who's going to be starting on this occasion? Is it going to be Tristan again, or are you going to start the second race?
No, I'm going to start. That was like the whole plan, that I start the second race, because Man United is going to play later, and I don't want to miss too much of that. So if I started the second race, then I could watch more of them. I hope they don't get slapped too hard by Man City.
We'll have to see. But yes, we'll let you go now and get yourself ready. We've got 6 minutes to go until the second race. But good luck with the second race, of course. Congratulations on the first race, first of all. But yeah, we'll let you go now and enjoy the second race.
Thank you. Have a good one. Ciao. Enjoy it.
There we are, Tim Matsker joining us there from T3 Motorsport by Maniti. One of the more bizarre reasons I've heard Nolan there for starting the car, but there we are, whatever works. To be fair though, if I had Tim Matsker as a teammate, I would trust him as well, starting in 20th in a field like this.
Well, at least he's honest about why he started in the field, right? I mean, you got your priorities, right? And for some, sim racing is not the only priority. And it seems like he's got football on the mind. So best of luck then to the team that he happens to be rooting for. I will say, don't know quite a whole lot about football, but I have heard Manchester and United a whole number of times over there. So anyways, getting back to racing here. It is, of course, going to be a very entertaining second race. And we talked about the fact that it's going to be a night race. You got your 20-car reverse grid. And we saw what that resulted, minus the night race at Coda last week. Do we think it could potentially be the same fashion here tonight? Because it did get a bit hectic on that opening lap.
Yeah, I certainly think that it's a very real possibility for all of these guys. Before we get into all of that, though, let's just give everybody at home a bit of a reminder about how you can get involved here today. The Easter egg, of course, you've basically got to tell us what that is. Not much of a hint needed. Easter egg, of course, is where you can get there is one every round throughout this season. And at the end of the season, there will be a sheet for you to fill the answers in from all of the rounds. And then you'll be able to win some prizes. Of course, the Easter egg prizes. Of course, we will show in a few minutes' time as well. But along with the giveaway that you can get for today, there's the giveaway at the top of the screen, and the Easter egg prizes there as well. If you just fill in the relevant links, the giveaway link is in the chat and indeed in the description of this stream and the Easter egg challenge will be. We'll explain more about it at round 6, but you've got to remember all of the Easter eggs from all of the rounds so far in this HyperX GT Sprint Series season. So 3.5 minutes until we get racing here at Okayama once again. Nighttime has definitely fallen. Went from day to night throughout the previous race. It's going to be fully nighttime this time. I just wonder if that's going to really affect these guys at all, because it is quite dark out there, judging by the way these headlights are really lighting everything up. It's not like we're visiting Daytona, for example, where there's floodlights everywhere. This is probably dark out here.
When you saw it just on the static shot here, like once the car is finished going through, I mean, there is just nothing to keep this track lit. And I think that could be a significant challenge, but honestly, it's going to be more of a challenge for the guys that are leading the individual trains, isn't it? Because for the guys that are behind, you can actually use the lighting for the car in front of you as a little bit of a guide, right? You get a bit of a, shall you say, a bit of an extension in your own lighting. So you have to, I imagine, kind of realize that it might be almost beneficial to sit in behind somebody, at least until you get the hang of racing this track at night.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, we've got to talk about the AM category as well here. One of their cars has been able to get inside the top 20 here and put a lot of cars between themselves and their nearest rivals. That could be very much race defining in there. And it does mean with AM cars and Pro-Am cars up towards the front that it does change quite a bit for all of these guys. Another car I want to just mention as well, starting up towards the front, or relatively compared to their rivals, Pure Sims Esports. Very fast in the opening part of the race with Eric Grove driving that car. He was racing away from the field. Well, not racing away, but he was in the lead. And here is that McLaren. Starting a little bit ahead of the likes of Maniti and RSR. What can they do in this race? That is the question.
I think that is going to be a very, very critical factor for them, because they did not have the best of runs in race 1. But I think very crucially, they proved that they absolutely have got the pace to properly do battle with the big dogs up there in the series, in a McLaren no less. So you know that they're going to be absolutely on it, doing everything they can to try to find themselves back up in the race before long. And no doubt they're hoping that they don't get hit up the rear again, because that happened to them not once but twice. First time was out of the lead, second time was out of a top 5. It is just unfortunate the amount of things that have just not gone their way, and through no fault of their own, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 spins, and I wouldn't say that either of them were their fault, certainly in the last race. Obviously, all of that to be sorted out in the stewards' room afterwards. And indeed, the stewards will have plenty of things to be looking through as well. So the drivers pull themselves into the pit lane for the most part at the end of this warm-up session, because we're about to go racing here in the IVRA GT Sprint Series, brought to you by, or sponsored by HyperX, of course, the official gaming peripheral sponsor on board for this season once again, and we thank them very much for that. In this great championship. 2 1-hour races per afternoon, of course, with the reverse grid race always throwing up its thrills and sometimes spills as well, as we saw at Circuit of the Americas. Not only was there an incident at turn 1, but a big smash at turn 2 as well, as they ran down the hill towards the S's for the first time. Let's hope for a cleaner run through the opening couple of corners here at Okayama, but only time will tell. We look down on this circuit, this wonderful racetrack, of course. The headlights really illuminating the circuit quite well, of course, but floodlights almost non-existent around here, apart from on the pit straight. It really is a challenge to drive at night. It's going to be a challenge for everybody at home to watch as well, I'd imagine, judging by these shots so far. Because, as we mentioned, very, very dark indeed. Let's see how they line up, though. It's going to be Olympus Esports on the pole ahead of the AM leaders, V-Racers. The Pro-Am leaders, Rusty Spatulas, will be in third, sharing a row with Vector by OSR. Project Dynamic and the other Vector by OSR car will be on the third row together, with T3 Motorsport by Maniti's Pro-Am car in 7th. VEC Sim Racing in 8th ahead of Ingersoll Randonausis. Westwood Racing Esports will be rounding out your top 10 ahead of the Pro-Am winners from the last race. XPD ML Racing will be in 12th position ahead of Ludens Racing. Pure Sims Esports starting 14th. Michael Evdocker will be one to watch. He'll be just ahead of Rudy Nottveld, rounding out the top 15. 5-Star Motorsport will be in 16th, then of RSR by G Performance and Team RSO. Those two are battling for a long time, and they'll be sharing the 9th row together. Alex Urenga and Tim Matska will be once again doing battle here just inside the top 20. Then those who just missed out on the reverse grid, of course, Oblivion Racing 21st ahead of Valorous Motorsports. Eclipse Racing Team will be 23rd ahead of World of Sim Racing Team in 24th. Then in the 25th position, we've got TR Motorsports and Cube Racing alongside them. Kazar Sim Racing will be next ahead of the other Pure Sims Esports car there in the Lamborghini. Then it's Kazar Sim Racing and Simtech Motorsport on the 15th row together. Finally, Ingersoll Randanosis rounding out your 31 car grid here for this race. So, 1 hour of racing, mixed up grid here, Nolan. It could not be more exciting as these guys come through the final couple of corners. It's Lamborghini, BMW, Porsche and Mercedes and Audi all involved right up towards the front of this field. Olympus Esports versus V-Racers on the front. Maffei Boutron will be in control of this field for Olympus. Procar, of course, taking the green flag here at Okayama as we get ready to go racing and wait for those cars to fan out 3 and 4 wide as we're expecting. There they all go. Goodness me. Are they all going to make their way through here cleanly is the question. The McLaren already on the right hand side off on the grass as they filter their way through 3 wide through turn 1 at the front of the field. It's all nicely done. So far at the front, a little bit of chaos at the back with Diego Vasquez of World of Sim Racing Team going around. Alex Urenga's involved as well. Oh dear, there's been contact for both RSR cars as well as Alexander Godefroy for VC Sim Racing. It's a mess at turn 2, just as Tim Matska predicted before the race. Turn 2 is going to be the pinch point, and it was.
Good number of cars collected to that one there. That was almost half the field that got involved in that second incident over in turn number 2. For the race lead, though, the battle is on. V-Racers down the inside of Olympus, and Nuno Costa goes up past that Maffei Boutron at the moment. So the M-Class BMW up into the lead of this race, just getting past a Pro-Class Lamborghini, really showing that the M drivers really want to lead some of these races, doing that as much as they can. You still got Rusty Spatulas in the 213 Porsche sitting in the 3rd place position, and other than that massive shunt at turns 1 and 2, there's not been any further drivers going off track throughout the field.
That certainly looks to be that way. Disappointing for RSR though to have both of their cars involved. Boris Angel Lavando is down in 24th and Alex Urenga's down in 26th after 1 lap here, but very rare to see an AM car passing a Pro car, especially for the lead there. But Nuno Costa not showing any remorse at all. He's just going straight down the inside. And speaking of which, Vector by RSR down the inside of Project Dynamic. This is on the inside line of turn number 1, although it gives you the outside for turn 2, so difficult to make that work. And easy cut by TR Motorsports, looking to make their way through here, as well as maybe the Vector up by RSR teammates side by side through turn 3 and into 4 as well. Still side by side they go here through here and out onto the back straight. Good battle between the teammates, but it's really halting all of these guys who are probably main contenders for this race. Like we can see a little bit further down, Team RSO, T3 by Maniti, and of course Pure Sims, who are all involved in this, in 11th place, 3 wide, down the inside, in a big way for Ludens Racing. That was brave, but it just about worked.
And in the middle of this is Michael Duggan, the Pure Sims McLaren. This is going to get tied with the McLaren 94-12C stuck on the high side through Piper Corner. And now you can see drivers fanning out to the inside. Goes Mark Stevens up into the inside of the corner. And there is Cesar Carango of Ingersoll trying to keep Beniti at bay. Oh, it's all gone wrong.
Oh, no.
Oh, look out. RSO gets involved. And it looks like the McLaren has been punted off again. They cannot catch a break.
They absolutely can't. And I think they've got suspension damage because of the way they hit the wall there on the right-hand side. I'm pretty sure there's suspension damage on that McLaren. Although it is hard to tell at this early stage. Looks like Maniti have got away with that one. T3 Motorsport by Maniti gotten away. The reigning champions, of course. Out in front now of Ludens Racing even. Just up there in 11th position. A fantastic start for them. Oh, as around goes Ludens. Into the wall at turn 2. That looked like completely on his own for Mark Stevens.
And so it was, just on his own, looped it around and backed it into the wall, and you called it accurately. Michael Doggo definitely with some suspension damage. You continue to look at the developing battles exiting Atwood Curve, and this has got Rune Janssens for 5-Star Motorsports in the mix of it. Louis Gasper alongside him for Volaris. And both are trying to close up to Sammy and the Eclipse Racing Porsche. Gasper going to fight for the inside line, really deep on the brakes, and all the while, while the battles continue to develop up in front for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Rusty Spatulas, T3 Motorsports, and Project Dynamic all having a good scrap at it.
They are indeed. All a very long train at the moment. This does tend to happen with Am and Pro-Am cars mobbing the front of the, or mobbing the front of the field, I should say. A little bit further down. Here, Vector by RSR. These two cars 2nd and 3rd in the Pro order, by the way, but they're still down 7th and 8th at the moment in the overall standings. Then you've got Team RSO, 3rd in the first race. Then it's Ingersoll Randonausis, and then the race winners from the first race. You can see in the Lamborghini in the background, a little bit of defending, and even a move being made by the other Maniti car, the Pro-Am Maniti car. That's for the leading Pro-Am. Rusty Spatulas getting overtaken here. We saw how long Rusty Spatulas were able to stay at the front of trains for in the first race. Seemingly quite good at defending, really, but not quite got the pace of those around them, maybe. And this train is starting to form almost because of them. Side by side a little bit further down with Ingersoll and Maniti has gone in the way of Tim Matska and Maniti, of course. And here's still Rusty Spatulas getting overtaken by almost everybody here at the moment. Project Dynamic through, and Easy Clap by TR Motorsports looking to get through as well.
And now you can see Easy Clap down the inside of Rusty Spatulas, and Twan Vandenbelt is going to go through in the 235 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, and Luke Burtonshaw gets cut off at the Vector by RSR. Mercedes just in behind, and you can see other drivers like Tim Matsky in the Pro Maniti Lamborghini trying to dice their way through at the field as drivers still trying to tackle the difficulties that a reverse grid race can hold. Take a look at a replay. Yes.
Also, I think Pure Sims actually might have tipped the 167 into a spin, kicking all of this off. By the way, Michael Evdoka could be in a little bit of trouble here for all of it, for the fact that Pure Sims have been spun around 3 times, possibly not by their own doing. They possibly have caused or been the catalyst in this whole incident. Oh, dearie me. Well, that was needless from that BMW. A bit unsighted, you'd imagine, coming around that blind corner in the dark, but either way, a little bit needless. As we see Rusty Spatulas getting overtaken by everybody. Vector by RSR's 172 car is through, Team RSO through, and Tim Matska looking to get through here as well. Down the inside into turn 4, it's a nice move from him. RSO right on the outside there, Cedric Nebusek on the outside line of that Vector by RSR car, still there, going down in towards the hairpin.
Coming down towards the hairpin, Burtonshaw muscling Nebelzek out to the left-hand side, and deeper on the brakes, it's battle of the late breakers, and Nebelzek pulling clear in the Audi yard LMS, and nothing Burtonshaw could do about that one. Tim Matsky has gotten clear for 9th place. You've got Niels Tiesters just in behind the Vectors by RSR 171 as well, trying to link up with his teammate just in front of him, second car up the road. All the while, you've also got Rusty Spatulas, Ingersoll, XPD Emerald, Valorous, 5-Star, and more, all in one long train looking to battle with each other. I think there was a little bit of a touch.
There was indeed. Rusty Spatulas received a little bit of a nudge there from Ingersoll, but he didn't end up spinning the Porsche around. XPD Emerald Racing right there as well, also in the Pro category, of course, as things start to single file themselves out here in the first 8 minutes of this race. Not going to calm down here though. There's still a lot of cars out of position, as you can see, and now down the inside for a top 10. The 134 makes its mark and makes the move into turn 1. Around the outside through 2 as well to just consolidate that one, and they are indeed through as 5-Star Motorsport just in the background there make their way through as well. Slow progress from them so far, but they're starting to get going.
Still got Juan Parado Jr. in the XPD Emerald Racing Machine trying to find his way through as well, just in behind, trying to get around the Pro-Am car of Tuomo Sepala for Rusty Spatulas. The 213 Porsche is not having the funnest of times out there, trying to keep an absolute stormy field at bay. There's a lunge from Parada up the inside of Rusty Spatulas. I believe the Lamborghini will make that one work for XPD Emerald Racing. 5-star Motorsports driven by Ruud Janssens, far to the outside line, but he gets pushed onto the gravel now in the 105 Lamborghini.
It's difficult for him out there. Although he's going to switch to the inside here, half in defence and half in attack. It looks like he's going to go on the attack, down the inside for 5-star Motorsport, not waiting around there at all. Valorous Motorsport looking to make their way through as well. And they do. Very important one, of course, because they are both Pro-Am cars. Pure Sims Esports in the McLaren, 15th for the moment. Now, is this car damaged or not, is the question, because I would have said yes earlier, but either Michael Evdoka's just dealing with it, or that car is absolutely fine, just got a few scrapes on it.
Well, I can tell from checking some of the in-car cameras as, there's a car off at turn 1, and it's easy clap. The 235 Lamborghini had just been making up ground. What on earth has happened to easy clap? They find themselves facing backwards in their Lamborghini. They already spun out from 5th place, and they're all the way down to 18th now because of whatever happened to them.
Yeah, not sure what happened there. I think it might have involved Team RSO, though, because Cedric Nebusek was trying to get through. Here he is on the inside line, is he? Oh, he's made a late one. It's so late, Nolan, I think that's almost a misjudgment from Nebusek there. Wasn't quite expecting the easy clap by TR Motorsport car to get on the brakes so early. As look at this, what is going on here? A big pile up here with the Moniti Pro-Am car spun around there, and all of a sudden, the order completely changes in Pro-Am. T3 Motorsport by Moniti are still leading, but a half spin at the hairpin. What on earth has gone on here?
Fight for overall 3rd place. Oh, a late break and an outbreak. Oh, it just got into the Project Dynamic Audi. And that just checked everything out. Now, good job, Project Dynamic. They, I think, backed up just to let them hold on to that position, but they both lost a boatload as a result.
Yeah, they certainly did. They're way down now. It's allowed the pro cars to get through without any issues. Oh my word, jogging them all the way towards the barriers there on the left-hand side. Down the inside for Tim Matska, though. He's not going to be denied. He's down the inside at turn 1, and Cedric Nebusek's going to have to fight hard for this one. He's got the inside line for turn 2. Is he going to give him the room on the exit? He just about gives enough for the Lamborghini, who's still the outside, the inside, excuse me, for the next 2 corners. And this is surely going to give them the move. Matska inside line, and they're already up to 2nd in the pro category, although he's gone deep. And Nebusek with a fantastic run out of the outward curve. He's going to be on the inside line. They rub down the straight, and they're going to be absolutely neck and neck running down here through the kink on the straight. A squeeze onto the grass as well from Nebusek. He's on the inside line, braking so hard his lights have flashed. He's on the inside line, and he's somehow held on to the place.
Absolutely brilliant racing from both of these drivers. It wasn't the cleanest racing, but boy, is it ever thrilling. Going back really quickly while there's a brief lull in this lion of a fight to the Pure Sims McLaren. You mentioned there was the possibility of damage. There definitely is. He's holding the wheel at about a 15-degree angle to keep it going in the straight line down the straights, but he is just dealing with it and doing so nicely, still sitting in 13th place as we watch this battle for 3rd continuing to develop.
And it's a fantastic battle here. The 2 Vector by RSR Mercedes just in the background, watching on. This race really hasn't spread out very much, looking at the background there. Almost the entire field in one shot here. Certainly the top 15 or so out on the front straight there. Meanwhile, just up in front of these guys, by the way, Olympus Esports are leading the pro category, and V Racers in an AM car. We're nearly a quarter of an hour into the race, for goodness sake. AM car still leading.
With 2.5 seconds, no less, from a pro car, that's almost unheard of in this series. Like, you have to realize that's not just the fact that V Racers, got lucky and Olympus fell back. That is on pure pace. Because Olympus isn't battling with anybody, as Matsky goes outside line, deep on the brakes around Team RSO. But they went too deep to be able to properly hang on to it, and Nebusek swept right back through into 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. As RSR by bookkeeping will tell you, Cedric Nebusek is not the easiest man to overtake in this field. And he's proving that once again here in this battle for 3rd. It's allowing the 172 to come into play. That is Luke Burtonshaw. Nearest Chiestas, his teammate, is a few car lengths back as well. But look at this, despite the battling, they're catching the 146 hit of Olympus Esports in towards the final corner. It's Matteo Brutron at the moment of Olympus Esports. Currently driving this car, not quite got the pace of some of those around at the moment. The reverse grid, of course, helping them out. But of course, the fastest cars rising to the front here once again, nearly a quarter of an hour in. Surely there's going to be something going on down in towards the hairpin, whether that's a move on the Olympus Lamborghini, or whether Cedric Nebusek is under pressure from Matska, or both, quite possibly, into turn 5. Through the outward curve they go again, and Nebusek has taken a nice line there to get the best run possible out of this corner, and he is going to need it because that Lamborghini is quite strong on this back straight. In the slipstream though for Nebusek, that's going to help into turn 5. How hard are we going to see that 146 fight this one? Not very, as they both steam down the inside. Are they both going to get through on the Lamborghini? It certainly looks like it. Matska's on the outside line for 6 and 7 though. He's going to be held up just a little bit more than Nebusek was though. And Matska's not going to be pleased about this. Side by side between the two Lamborghinis. This is certainly hurting Maniti.
And now, Malfe Boutron just lets Tim Matsky go without losing too much time. The gap is still about 9/10 of a second. Still is very much the possibility of being able to throw his hat into the ring for that battle for position. But it looks like the fight for second place is done and dusted with for the time being. Luke Burtonshaw looking to have a run on the 146 machine now of Olympus Esports. You see those long train of cars still trundling away down the front straightaway, already a quarter of the way through the second race. Just flying by with how thrilling of a race we're having, and all these various little battles kicking off everywhere you look throughout the field.
Oh, onto the gravel a little bit there for Parada. He's recently just got through, or was trying to get through, an Ingersoll. I thought he actually got it done, but it turns out he was denied in this battle for 7th. Well, I guess you could call it a battle for 6th with Tiestas just in front there, and the Mercedes is here as well. In the darkness at Okayama, down into the hairpin again. Too far back for any lunges from this point. It really would be heroic, if you could say that. Down into the hairpin. His Project Dynamic though, unfortunately I should say, losing quite a lot of places in the recent moments here. Down to 3rd in Pro-Am now, after that contact they made with the T3 Motorsport by Maniti Lamborghini. And it's continuing to go wrong for them. Valorous Motorsports also dropping down, also getting through on them, despite the fact Valorous started outside the top 20 in this race. It's a great start from them, but if you pick your way through the chaos, I guess you can make up quite a few places early on in these races.
So this is so far going to be by far one of the most exciting races that we have seen yet on the season. I mean, you have to imagine that if this is the kind of racing we're going to be seeing at a place like Okayama, what are we going to be seeing at the Charlotte Roval, right? What are we going to be seeing at Long Beach? Who knows at this point? Hello, there's another car. Of course, that was, I believe, the Project Dynamic Audi driven by Dawson Hess. Small off track though, no harm, no foul. And we're going to look up to this fight between, looks as though this could be for the 11th position with Dawson Hess. Project Dynamics still trying to close up to the 11th place car, Louis Gaspar. Battle up the road though. Ingersoll under fire from Vector by RSR, trying to put Vector by RSR under fire. The 171 having to defend this one outside line of Revolver corner. Oh, here comes Parada looking a bit opportunistic to go for the inside of Piper.
And it all closes up here. Look at this. Everybody trying to look to the inside line now, realising there's an opportunity and trying to seize it all at once here. Maybe around the outside for one of the 5-star motorsports cars there. The 105 looking to make some progress here. This is all being bottled up now by Niels Tiestas, who is driving that Vector by RSR car, the 171. And it's allowing all of this battling to take place, really. Ingersoll applied a bit of pressure to Tiestas into the hairpin there, but no way through. And the bigger this battle gets, the more dangerous it gets, as we've seen in the past with a couple of trains down in the midfield in the first race. We're seeing it right up towards the front now. For whatever reason, this Mercedes really struggling in terms of pace, as the recovering 167 RSR by Primus Mercedes gets up into 14th place.
there is Alex Jurunga. You just mentioned it there, getting past Rusty Spatulas. And up front, there is the fight. Ingersoll once again trying to put Vector Biosar under fire. But XPD Emerald Racing, driven by Juan Parada Jr., trying to find a way through as well. Casters will defend. Oh, and it's a big one from Parada outside line. But it's all going to work out just. And I think Parada's actually made that pass work on Corrego instead. That is not at all what Ingersoll was hoping to happen there.
Yeah, it's and somebody dropping down very quickly there. Oh dear, there it is. Oh, it's Michael Evdoka again. Just when it rains, it pours, I suppose. And it is pouring at the moment for this team. Outside of the top 16 once again, as multiple changes going on there. XPD Emerald Racing have also been at least shoved wide. Let's have a look at what happened to Evdoka though. I think this one was on his own, unfortunately. There it is.
That was the damage that kicked in right there. That's where it was hurting, right, was when it was on the right-hand corners. And this is what happened up to XPD Emerald Racing. This was coming on up into the double switchback hairpins, so we'll see. I think, the Vector Biostar got loose and got into XPD Emerald. What's interesting there is, hello, 3 wide through turn 1. What is going on here? Ingersoll, going at it with Benini. And it's all gone wrong. The 9th place driver shut it off, and XPD somehow finds a hole.
And very close between those two cars as well, already going side by side. Had to split the difference either side of this Ingersoll Audi. I'm afraid not the first time we've seen an Ingersoll car involved in an incident during this race. And a contentious one as well. Free wide into turn 1 though. Goodness me, this is already quite dangerous. Project Dynamic down the inside of the Pro-Am T3 Motorsport by Maniti car. And then Ingersoll just drifting right ever so slightly into that car. Goodness me, very, very close, and a lot of avoiding action going on behind, as up the front of the field, Team RSO and T3 Motorsport by Maniti dispatch of V racers, and now surely we're going to see a titanic battle between these two.
Maniti has been trying to close up to Team RSO ever since they got held up by Olympus in the first 10 minutes of this race, and now they're right there and ready to pounce, just 3/10 back, and that gap is closing down to 1/4 of a second, 2/10 of a second now to run down to turn number 1. Not close enough for a look into the first corner of the racetrack, but if they can get a good run through Williams and the Moss S, then there is a serious possibility that they can have the run out of Atwood down the back straightaway.
We've seen that Lamborghini quite strong in a straight line as well, coming down towards the hairpins, so the opportunity will certainly be there for Matska, but is he going to be able to take it? Coming out of the Atwood curve now and onto the back straight. It was already defending. He can't afford to wait any longer before pulling his car to the very right-hand side of the road. Matska's going to squeeze him all the way there as well, trying to keep him on a very tight line into the hairpin. He's going to brake late, but Cedric Nibusek brakes later. He holds the inside line well, and over the crest he's going to emerge in the lead once more. Good defence from Nibusek once again.
Nebelsic doing what he has to do to put that car on defense. And he's not the only one. Look at Olympus Esports battling it out with one of the Vector by RSR machines deeper in the field. That's the fight for 4th place. And then looks as though Vector by RSR, the 172 driven by Luke Burtonshaw, is going to get through with no incident. And 5-Star Motorsports, Rune Janssens trying to find the hole as well. There's the other Vector by RSR machine having a bit of a fight there with Valaris Motorsports, as well as Project Dynamic in the mix of this as well. That was a pro car getting past 2 Pro-Am cars, and then a Pro-Am battle as Dawson Hess gets past the Valaris Motorsports Apollo machine driven by Louis Gasper.
Lots of battles going on down the field here, this being one of them, of course. 5-Star Motorsports' turn to try and get through on Olympus Esports. Around the outside through turn 1 is impressive. Gives you the inside for 2, and the 2 Lamborghinis keep things nice and clean, but there was no contest there. Rune Janssens, I think that is, has got through. He's going to be handing over to Adam Isaacson. He's got the opportunity to in 2 minutes' time when the pit window opens already. This is on board with Juan Parada, and how on earth did he get through this is the question. Well, by stamping on the brakes as the Maniti car was spinning wildly in front of him.
And now Nebelsic under fire by Tim Matzke for the race lead. They were side by side up into the hairpin. but it didn't go the way that Matsky wanted to. Maybe this time by side, bring it so Conte Matsky gets shoved wide, and Tim Matsky just barely hangs on, and already lunging on the brakes. He is fuming at the moment. With Cedric Nebelsack, they have hit how many times now from the race lead? I'm starting to lose track, but that Lamborghini is starting to show some serious signs of impatience.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to get through as quickly as possible here, and Nebelsack would like to keep him behind for as long as possible as well. Valorous Motorsports have had a problem, by the way, in the last couple of moments. Bit of contact up in front here, and then involved in all of that, he got tipped around. I think it was by one of the RSR cars. Could have been the 167, actually, driven by Alex Urenga. So that was an unfortunate moment for them. And off the road for Twan van Beltier. The easy clap by TR Motorsports Lamborghini. The Pro-Am winner from the first race. The second race not going nearly as well, with an incident here at the final corner. And here's how it happened. May have been tipped. Oh no, on the grass themselves there, and into the barriers very nearly. Oh, they were.
I did kiss the barriers. Not enough to get damaged, but definitely hit it. It's unfortunate for them. It's a very easy mistake to make, isn't it?
It is. It only takes a very little bit or a little bit of the tire to get on the grass, and all of a sudden you've had it off on the outside line. On board with Matska though. What are the pit strategy games going to be here? Because Matska was very, very good in the first part of this race. They might even consider him as slightly quicker than Iglesias, but do they want to spend it all behind Cedric Nebelsack here? He's got the opportunity to pit now. Will he decide to come in or not for an early choice? Not just yet. I do have a feeling though that this car is going to be in before that Audi in front.
Very rarely do we ever see drivers coming on down at the first opportunity. As I say, that LMP2 Esports is the first driver to bail out into pit road. XPD Emerald is just behind. And so is Rusty Spatulas. So Matsky and your top two battle are going to continue to stay out there on course. You see they are now starting to catch up to the World of Sim Racing team, and Diego Vasquez, the driver that got punted around on the opening lap in the opening corners of this race. And there is one of the Valorous cars down into pit road, and now will there be a move made for the race lead up into the hairpin corner? 0.2 of a second, it's closing. Maskey could have a look for it. Whether he'll be successful or not, doubt it. I think he's been too far back for the contact, and I have to say, talk about repaying the favor. But Team Marcel's going to hang on to that one, but I think that was Matsky expressing a little bit of displeasure there.
Yeah, and there's Nebelsack displaying displeasure in relation to, or in retaliation to the previous one. So aggression between the two now. It was certainly a bumper to the back of the RSO car there by the T3 Motorsport by Maniti Lamborghini. Aggression starting to come to the fore. There's a lap car going in the pit lane here, so neither of them going for it this time. But this is getting feisty now at the front of the field. Tension's starting to run high.
They just don't know how to leave each other alone, do they? I mean, it always seems to me that Revolver is the one corner where you don't want to be on the outside line, because you are going to have a run as Matsky braking late and almost getting into the gearbox with Cedric Nebelsack. Something tells me that Matsky wouldn't really complain about that one in the heat of the moment, but obviously have to think long-term, right? Because if you get found at fault for a major incident like that, you could find yourself with as much as a 15, 30-second penalty, and that it could find yourself dropped well down the order and could cost yourself a race win and some serious points.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go again. Nebelsack has to go on the defensive once more. What's going to happen this time? These two really not big fans of each other right now as they battle into the hairpin again. Nebelsack very late on the brakes once more. Absolutely no way around the outside for Tim Matska. There wasn't any way around the outside through turn 6 last time either, so he's not going to be alongside this time around. And he stays behind for the moment. Quite a lot of pit stops have now happened down the order, by the way. We're still waiting on the top 13 to come into the pit lane. As we see, Olympus Esports, the first of those who have made a pit stop as of now. Are we going to see one of these two diving in this time? Not just yet. Matska deciding to follow Nebelsack for a little bit longer. Maybe he feels like he can get through on the road. I
mean, I think overall Maniti's shown that they are the faster driver. They just haven't been able to find the way through. Will it be a turn one? Oh, very late defense there from Cedric Nebelsack, and driving out of the mirrors once again. It's not something that is typically smiled upon when it comes to racing, right? Those very, very late defenses. It's how you get some major, major incidents in the real world. Of course, this is the sim world. You get away with a little bit more in here, but you can still get those few moments where the drivers have to start to wonder, it's like, okay, how far are we going to take this one, right?
Absolutely. It is early in the season, of course. That'll be in the back of the mind. But Maniti, T3 Motorsport by Maniti, will want to take a 4th race win out of 4 here, if they can. I do feel like though they do need to make this work in the pit stops, unless Matsuka can do something on the road here, because we see how Nebelsack has been defending so far. Very firm and very difficult to get through. So I do feel like Iglesias is going to run into the same problems if indeed they send him out in the same situation. Nebelsack not sharing with anybody today. He's going alone on this occasion, so he's going to be difficult to get through on. Now he's going to... Oh, the games have begun. Even a fake into the pit lane this time.
It didn't quite work for Tim Matzke, who was not in the slightest deterred. He didn't even bother making the slightest look. And that honestly almost compromised Team RSO all the way through the final 2 corners, as evident by the major run that Matzke got, and gets cut across on the exit of turn 1, so forced to yield. Just about a quarter of a second, was down to the 10.5 between them. Now Tim Matzke, clips the grass and the gravel at the exit of turn 2. Very, very risky business there. Halfway now through the pit window. This driver's going to be having to come in within the next 2-3 laps or so.
Certainly are, but in what order are these two going to be coming in? Because Matsuka, has got a fantastic run here. He's in the slipstream of Nebelsack once again. He's going to pull to the right-hand side of our screen, so almost a carbon copy of the last few laps. Can he brake late enough or do anything? And Nebelsack, he does dive it deep into the corner this time. Nebelsack defends hard. Oh, dearie me. That was a big shove out wide on this occasion. Matsuka not really given the room there at all. And Nebelsack does stay in front, but at what cost?
I mean, there is a point where you have to realize you have to leave some space, right? Because, I mean, it's not really a race if you're just playing roadblock, is it? I mean, it's getting a little bit out there, and no doubt the stewards might be having a slight look at this one. And there it is, Nebelsack coming into pit road this time by. Tim Matzke going to be taking the high side through. Now, I think this could be good here. For Tim Matzke, the fact that he's staying out one more, right? I think he's going to try to go for the overcut. It's been evident that Matzke is the faster of those two, and he's been held up by Cedric Nebelsack. If he can break clear in terms of on-track deltas on timing, he could exit pit road in front of Team RSL.
Yeah, quite possibly. He's going for that overcut, as you say. Now, RSR have got in front of Project Dynamic on the last lap, and they've both come into the pit lane right together. This is the American flag livery on the Audi, of course. You can't quite see it at the moment, but it is there, I can assure you. Loads of different cars coming in the pit lane right now. Looking a little bit further down, you can see some damaged cars getting repairs, as you can see in the foreground. There goes Nebelsack. He leaves the pit lane, and of course he will still be behind the wheel. This is going to be the race where they use only one driver. Mats Torkusfeld and Robin Haas will be helping them out, or helping him out, I should say, throughout this season. But how are these final couple of in-laps going to be for Tim Matzke? How are the out-laps for Cedric Nebelsack? And what kind of situation is Tristan Iglesias going to see when he gets that T3 Motorsport by Maniti car?
And interesting enough, Tim Matzke still staying out, opting not to pit this time by, and I have a feeling he wants to try to make sure that he can get by him on track. But the problem with that strategy, he's got lap traffic right ahead of him, right? And that is Oblivion Racing that's ahead of him. It's Easy Clap that's right ahead of him. He's got to be careful that he doesn't get held up here, or this could end up being a bit of a detriment to him. So fingers crossed that Tim Matzke will be able to have himself a bit of an easier run of trying to extend that gap. Because I can tell you he's definitely trying to go for the overcut, but he has to pit this lap. There's no way he can go another one without finding himself being slapped with a penalty for pitting outside of the pit window.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have made your pit stop by the 25 minutes to go mark. And that is, you've just got to get in the pit lane. You don't have to have completed the stop. Matsuka is the final driver to still be out there here. As things stand. Still leading. It's a big lead at the moment, but what is that gap going to be when he indeed makes that stop? For Nebusek, it was a 30.7 second pit stop. That will, of course, be crucial as well in the course of this race. And the fact that Matsuka wasn't quite able to catch up to that traffic and get held up by that was also very helpful. Ingersoll Randanosis just leave the pit lane there, as you can see. They drop outside the top 10. That's the one remaining Ingersoll car, by the way. So the other one getting involved with T3 Motorsport by Maniti in the Pro-Am class. In comes Matsuka, though. Here he is. All-important pit stop for Tim Matsuka. Where is Tristan Iglesias going to be in relation to Cedric Nebusek? I have a feeling that it's going to be quite close.
We're quite close indeed. Matsuki hops out. Iglesias hops in. Team RSO still has yet to hit Red Man Corner in the middle of that middle portion of the circuit. Only right-handers left to go now for Team RSO. I'm watching that car at the moment as Iglesias continues on with their pit stop. Rounding the second to last bend now. There is the Team RSO 197. Iglesias is off the jacks and off and away. Will he beat Team RSO out of pit road? Going to be coming across the line this time by. Here comes Team RSO. And I think Iglesias has jumped him. And look at that. Team Maniti Racing has jumped Team RSO in the pit stops. The overcut worked to perfection there.
It certainly did. Tim Matsuka did enough on his in laps, and unfortunately Cedric Nebusek wasn't able to do enough on his out laps. And Team RSO have been jumped. T3 Motorsport by Maniti are leading again. Are they on their way to a fourth victory in this 2022 season, 2022 sprint season here in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series? He's got his work cut out here. Iglesias will have a lot of defending to do. Nebusek is not going to take this one lying down, but he's got the track position, and that was what Matsuka was finding so hard to gain through the first half of this race.
What a strategy there, and that was golden. I think Maniti realized that they were faster, and they did not want to risk being held up again by Team RSO by pitting at the same time. Go the extra 2 laps and get yourself out in front. That was done beautifully. Now we'll see if Cedric Nebusek is really as fast as he's been led on to believe, and really an even match. We'll see if Nebusek potentially close on in and battle again for the race lead. And at the moment, with Vector by RSR 10 seconds back from second place, it is a 2-horse race in the fight for the race win.
Certainly is. We've seen time and again this season, and indeed last season, T3 Motorsport by Maniti coming in very close to other cars, but in the second half of the race just gently pulling away. Iglesias did it twice at Circuit of the Americas. Tim Matsuka was able to do it to RSR in the last race here at Okayama. Is the Spaniard going to do it for a 4th time this season? Just edge that Lamborghini away from the Audi. It looks like it as the gap grows to nearly 1 second. I have to say, one of the drives of the race so far certainly has to be RSR by Primis, the 167. Got spun around at turn 2, the very second corner of the race. We're outside of the top 20 after the first lap. They're now staring at a possible top 5 here. I reckon they might be able to get Olympus Esports and V Racers here. And a 5th position after all of that will be a very good showing.
Of course, holding the fastest lap as well in this race to top that all off. So they have been having a phenomenal time out there on the racetrack. And still, as you mentioned, have time to catch up to Olympus and potentially V Racers as well. Even those 2 cars, just 0.3 of a second apart from each other, which, speaking of tenths, T3 Motorsports by Maniti has just broken away by over 1 second from Team RSO. I think that is about the nail of the coffin for Team RSO's race, is if Maniti can continue to extend that gap to about 2 seconds, then he'll be clear of the draft entirely. and there will be nothing that Neville Sake can do but watch those taillights fade away into the distance. Here's a battle a little bit deeper in the order. This is the fight for 5th place between V-Racers and Olympus Esports.
Yeah, this is Matt Loveridge trying to get through on the AM leader. Surely there's no way that these guys can lose this race from here for V-Racers. They're nearly 30 seconds in front of their nearest rivals. All the way down, I think, 19th or 20th, excuse me, for Oblivion Racing. A little bit wide there from the 333. That's Marco Silva driving, and it really doesn't matter too much to them. They are leading by a very, very long way, and surely going to be taking the championship lead here with 2 victories on the day. I'll say that they only scored. They were only 5th coming into today, so you never know. Some calculations obviously to do after the race. And then we'll bring you the standings at the start of the broadcast for Laguna Seca in 2 weeks' time. Meanwhile, further up the order, look at this. 5-Star Motorsport just in the foreground there, making a dive. That's Adam Isaacson trying to get through on Ted Lowendick. Through the final couple of hairpins there, turn 9, and now into 10. Around the outside through here would be impressive. And Isaacson decides not to go for it, but that was a late move and an aggressive one down at the hairpin at turn 8.
And I think a wise move there for Adam Isaacson to bail out. There was not really a realistic possibility to be able to make a move around the outside line there. The only time when you can really go around the outside line at Okayama in those final couple of corners is in club cars or maybe lower powered open wheel cars. But even then, it is a really big stretch, let alone in these wide and bulky GT3 cars. It just is not happening. So good move on Isaacson to kind of break a bit earlier, back out. He'll have another go at him. He can stay close with the draft. He could potentially have a look at him into the hairpin, but he's not going to get it around this time by. Got a bit of work to do if he wants to close in that gap for 3rd.
He certainly does. Down into the hairpin here. Trying to get 2 Lamborghinis onto the podium here in this race. Brake discs glowing down at the hairpin. Big stop down there, of course. Downhill braking zone, making things even more difficult as gravity works against you. But a couple of car lifts have been created here by Lowendick. These two are a couple of, over 10 seconds now behind the top 2, who are also starting to get further away from each other. Isaacson, though, a much better run for those final couple of hairpins than Lowendick. And all of a sudden, he's right on the back of the Mercedes again, continually and consistently applying the pressure.
And he'll continue to apply that pressure all the way down the front straightaway into turn number 1. Quarter of a second separating them now. Isaacson is not done with Lowendick just yet. Vector by RSR has got to watch their backs. Adam Isaacson, you're right on board with him now as he comes around through turn 2 and into the Moss Asset turn number 3. Trying to see if he can maybe close on up to make the move for the final podium position on the day. A bit of a tighter apex that time by for Isaacson, and that leaves him in perfect striking distance. The Mercedes is going to be under some heavy fire now down the back straightaway in the run-up towards hairpin corner. Less than a tenth and a half separating the two of them. Isaac pulls out to the left-hand side, and Lowendick can't defend. Isaacson deeper on the brakes, takes it high side through turn 5.
And he'll give the inside for the next couple of corners, and that is going to be enough for the 5-Star Motorsport team to complete their run back to the podium. They didn't make very good progress in the opening part of this race, let's remember, but they've certainly made use of it now. Inside the top 3 with a very nice move on the Vector by RSR Mercedes. Unfortunately, the 172 team look like they are going to miss out on a podium this time around. But it was very good. It was really set up by the late braking at the hairpin, really. When you're on the outside like that, as Tim Matska was trying to do, you need to go right around the outside and brake really deep into the corner, really, really deep into the corner. And then you can just about make your way through. But yeah, it's very difficult to do that. Although Isaacson made it look quite easy there, really.
You mentioned RSR by Primus and their potential to potentially go up and catch Olympus Esports and pick up a top 5. Well, they just got one step closer, breaking past Marco Silva in the V-Racers BMW into turn 1 that last time by. V-Racers did break early. They did let them have it. And it's hard to see why they wouldn't, right? It's a pro car, you're an AM car. No point in battling for a position, especially when you know that your next closest competition is a good half a lap down the road from you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very big margin at the front of the AM category. And RSR by Primus, though, get inside the top 5. It's the car we're focusing on now, of course. I think if it was a bit lighter, we'd be able to see all the bumps and scrapes, actually. But there certainly are a fair few of those. I've just noticed as well in the order, the 117 McLaren is still going, and nearly inside the top 10 again here, as more battles go on a little bit further down. Oh, off the road. Ciano Gugma off the road, I'm afraid, for TR Motorsport, I think that is, down in 24th. It is indeed one of the AM cars. That going again now, fortunately. Through turn 4, but yeah, easy mistakes to make, really, down at turn 2. And very easy to find yourself in trouble around here, as I mentioned earlier on. Not much runoff at all. Grass and gravel everywhere, and the barriers not too far away, although they look like they've escaped those this time at least.
Continue to watch this battle developing up here. This is overall for 18th and 19th place, if I'm not mistaken, in this one. In fact, that is going to be correct. The fight for 19th place. That's Tim Ryder for Easy Clap by TR Motorsports, trying to close out to Chris Chatterton for the Eclipse Racing team, just in the battle for 18th place at the time being. So 263 versus 235. This is a fight for the pro category. About a tenth and a half, just about separating these two drivers. There's almost nothing between them. In the run to Atwood curve, Ryder makes the lunge down the inside. Not quite. He actually slowed it down very nicely. But look at the drive that the Porsche gets on corner exit, powering up and over the hill.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, almost slowed down a little bit too much through that corner there, and it looks like Chatterton might be able to get through again around the outside in that Porsche, and he does hold on here. So Chatterton holding on in the Pro-Am category, of course. It was one of those cars that spun around at turn 6 in a big battle in the first race, but holding on nicely here, and it's a little bit of a surprise to see, really. You don't often see the Eclipse Racing team or similar holding back this 2-3-5 team, judging by how they've got this season with the likes of Tim Ryder. But yeah, doing a good job right now is Chatterton, staying in front through the hairpin, even on the outside line, which makes it even more impressive, I suppose. Just had a bit of word through, by the way, in the YouTube chat from Michael Evdocker, who's watching us from the Pure Sims Esports camp. Says that the car's absolute toast, but the Pure Sims car's still going for the McLaren team, as we're on board with Ryder trying to make this move once more. Maybe a bit more successfully at the hairpin this time. We'll see.
Through Atwood curve, and too deep for the Porsche. Chatterton swings wide and open up the door for Tim Ryder to just knock it down, and it is now once again gonna be a drag race. The Porsche has got a little bit more top end speed, it would seem, starting to pull ahead already, but it is Tim Ryder and the Lamborghini to be a little bit more confident on the brakes in the middle of the corner, and Chatterton finally falls to 19th.
He certainly does. Was expected, really, in this race, but it was a time. It still had to be executed from Ryder there, and that's exactly what he's done. Up into 18th overall. Now then, this is a battle inside the top 10. Project Dynamic versus Pure Sims Esports. Not really one for points or a class position, but it is a close battle, as well as that one for 5th, of course, between Olympus Esports and RSR by Primus, to be keeping an eye on. We'll try and keep across them all, of course, but yeah, this McLaren does look damaged. We know that they are struggling with it, but Eric Grove just doing his best to pick up the points that they can, and here he is down the inside of the Project Dynamic car, straight through here, surely out of turn 4. No, not quite able to do it, and you can imagine the straight line speed has not been helped by this damage either.
And this particular incident that did him in down the straight, he actually got up onto the curb, and with the damage that car already has, the back end snapped around. He had to fight to keep it in control. Look at the flames that spit out of the back of that McLaren. Just absolutely beautiful. Talk about lighting up the whole back bumper of that machine. I mean, goodness gracious. Has to do a lot of work, though, now to close back up to Project Dynamic as a result. I have imagined a bit of a feeling here, and it might be trying to also focus on keeping the likes of Druga Tainio for Rusty Spatulas in behind him as well into the Porsche.
Yeah, they're very much in close attendance. Rusty Spatulas, let's not forget, early on in this race were really just getting their ears boxed by everybody. Eventually found their feet in this race, and they're starting to maybe move forward again. In this one, we'll see if they can get through on Project Direct. That would, of course, be the battle for the lead in Pro-Am, so we'll keep a very close eye on that one. A lot has changed throughout this race, and Project Dynamic are trying, of course, to repeat some of the successes of last season. And they won 9 races out of the 12. Running down towards turn 4 here. It's a really dangerous point for them because they don't want to lose too much time letting Pure Sims through here, but also they don't want to get involved in an incident with Pure Sims that would make them lose the Pro-Am lead. So very precarious situation.
And Eric Grove, this time by with a much better run, but you mentioned it before. Straight line speed not helped by the damage, so he doesn't close in nearly as effectively as he might like, and barely even shrinks the gap down the straightaway. I think the draft is one of the only things that's actually keeping Eric Grove up to speed here.
It certainly is close. This McLaren certainly doesn't look like it's quite like it was before, and it's understandable. They're now 30 seconds off the leaders. Just Iglesias, of course. Fire still spitting from the back of that car, though. Thankfully, that mechanism hasn't been affected, which we're glad about. This battle for top 10 for 10th position, coming through the final couple of corners in the final 10 minutes. Rusty Spatulas certainly seem to be getting that little bit closer, and at this point Project Dynamic would rather that McLaren was in between the two, because it just gives them that little bit of a buffer to hold on to this lead.
Makes me think that he might not be so eager to allow Eric Grove on through if Eric Grove does manage to pull alongside, right? Grove could be the driver where this kind of comes to a bit of a head here for Jesse Chiasano with the Project Dynamic Audi R8 LMS just up to in front of the MP4-12Z. Oh, this time by, Chiasano runs a bit wide through Atwood. That allows for Eric Grove to kind of get back into the mix here. He has the draft. 10th and a half, starting to close. Is it enough to have a look? Oh, thinks about it, but no, too far back still.
Actually, I do think there was an opportunity for him on the inside there, but didn't really want to go skating under the brakes through there. As Olympus and XBD Emerald Racing go side by side through 6 and 7 and into the 2 hairpins at 8 and 9. They're going to go for it as well, by the looks of things. That's Lamborghini on Lamborghini, of course. And looks like the 190 briefly got through, and then unfortunately it's gone spinning around at turn 9. Oh dear. That battle that was looking like it was a very clean and good battle actually had a sour ending, unfortunately, by the looks of things. Olympus Esports able to hold on to 7th there, and XBD Emerald Racing down to 9th, losing a place to T3 Motorsport by Maniti's 173 car.
It's those little battles, and honestly, whenever they go side by side through that third sector of the track, it almost seems like it's been inevitable. This is from the start of this fight. This was down. Hello. Oh, Matt Loveridge. Yeah, so that started way back here. So Loveridge got into it, got into the wall. Holy cow.
And then all of the stuff with the 190 happened, so I didn't quite realise the extent or how long that had gone on for there. Matt Loveridge was just spinning around at the hairpin there, and then it all kicked off at the end of the lap, turns 8 and 9. So that was bizarre. But either way, they're still both back going again, and I'm sure if indeed there was any wrongdoing from Olympus, then the 190 team will certainly protest it, and there'll be a look into it, of course, from the stewards. A little bit further behind from this, though. This McLaren trying to get through on on Project Dynamic, I should say. Apparently there is suspension, as we predicted earlier on, there is suspension damage on this car. Michael Evdoka saying that the steering is out, but Eric Grove just getting on with it. by the looks of things, and doing very well with the damaged car.
So one good thing about these cars is they can take a little bit of a beating, and it looks like while you might not be as fast, you can still get some decent points. And I think that is what the 117 crew is trying to do at the moment, right? They're just trying to see how much can they scrape away with. I mean, they know it's not going to be the greatest situation in the world for them points-wise, especially not when you look at what could have been, especially earlier in the night when they were leading the race. But an 11th place is still good. You're still scoring points, as opposed to be finishing laps down because he decided to park the car and not scoring anything.
Exactly. This would be 9th place, 8th place, 9th place in terms of the pro points. So exactly, he still picked up 42 points more than he would have if he just parked it about 50 minutes ago, I suspect, when he picked up the damage. Rusty Spatulas, though, are really going to want this McLaren out of the way. Obviously, they're doing nothing wrong, of course, but Rusty Spatulas want to get to Project Dynamic, and they want to challenge for this lead here in this race. And yeah, that's a very close one. Pro-Am, 10th place in the overall, and first, of course, in the class as we go side by side a little bit further back. Ingersoll involved in battling again. They often are. This time it's for 15th, I think this is, ahead of Vector by RSR, or is this the other car? Good, were we? Yeah, this is a little bit further down. Ingersoll with Alejandro Castanaya getting ahead of Easy Clap by TR Motorsports and Tim Rater. Staying ahead for now. Then the Vector by RSR car is just up in front. Niels Chester's driving this race on his own also, but he's dropped down quite a long way. He was inside the top 5, let's not forget, earlier on, right up towards the front of the pro class, but now he's really dropped down.
Car didn't finish too well in race 1 as well, so it looks like Okayama is really just not Jester's track, it would seem. So hopefully he'll have some better luck at WeatherTech Raceway at the Laguna Seca this next time around. We go racing again on March the 20th. Tim Ryder and Ingersoll still looking to do battle with each other. Here's Eric Grove trying to still get a run on Giussano for Project Dynamic, but 217 car, I think, just pulled ahead a bit more. Oh, hello. Looks like Olympus Esports going at it again, this time with an AM car. Marco Silva from V-Racers. And Matt Loveridge trying to find a way through. It's a car off the track as well. That's TR Motorsports. And you get through that all safe and sound. And TR Motorsports stopped in the background with nowhere safe to rejoin the racing circuit. Loveridge not going to be able to get past Marco Silva quite yet.
There's a lapped Pure Sims car in here as well, by the way, that's involved. That Lamborghini pulling out the way nicely, though, to make sure this battle can continue on without anyone in the way. T3 Motorsport by Maniti are really going to fancy their chances here. This is how it all happened for TR Motorsport. Looked like a simple spin on their own, unfortunately, down at turn 7.
Yeah, just dropped it on the transitioning there between the hill and the braking zone, and slipped around on them. One of the easier corners to spin out on the track. So that will see them dropping down and lose a bit of time, but unfortunately they didn't have a whole lot of time to be gained in the first place. Matt Loveridge still trying to find a way around Marco Silva for V-Racers, and they're starting to catch Ruben Esriba Raleigh for World of Sim Racing, who's starting to check up this pack a little bit.
Yeah, all the way down into the hairpin. Now, what's happened to Vector by RSR here? Oh, off the road at the hairpin, and all of a sudden they're going to be dropped into all of this by the looks of things. They're just going to get away with it in 5th place. Olympus Esports get overtaken here as well. Oh, well, they might have been tipped into a spin. This is how Vector by RSR went around. Tim Lowendick getting things wrong on his own. And what about Matt Loveridge? Was he tipped into a spin by the T3 Motorsport by Maniti car, or did he go on his own? Also on his own. A surprising amount of spins at the hairpin today, I have to say.
It's a hard corner to get right. It's a late apex that you have to try to get, because you obviously have to swing the car back out to the right-hand side to make it in time for the other couple of corners. So you have to apex it late. And obviously that means you're carrying a lot of speed through corner entry. It's very, very easy to lose the back end, especially on a cooler track surface like what we got here at the moment at only 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think that is kind of the telltale signs about just how cool this track is, that it is still a very challenging outfit these drivers are having to struggle with. This is Andreas Thiel, 173 Medici car trying to steal past Marco Silva in the V-Racers BMW. This would be the fight for overall 6th place on the track. I believe it'll be 2 laps to go this time by the line.
I believe, well, it might actually be the last lap next time by. Because of the slower pace of the second race, due to the reverse grid, we might actually get one less lap here. It was quite close last time. Either way, down the inside for T3 Motorsport by Munich. That's through on V-Races, who really don't want to be a part of this, to be quite honest. XPD Emu Racing not too far behind either. A couple of lap cars as well, I think, in here. As Rusty Spatulars get through on Olympus Esports. Could be important in terms of this race, but the gap now to Project Dynamic nearly 2 seconds in the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am race. Don't tell me they've been off again. Oh, they have. Matt Loveridge is not having a fantastic time in the dying moments of this race.
Same mistake too, just 2 laps back to back. That's a, it happens once and it's like, oh, it's just this mistake, no harm, no foul. But the second time it's like, all right, we need to figure out what's going on at this point in time. Not seeing the white flag being waved, so I think we are going to get one more, possibly. The lap times are about 1.5 minutes. There's only 40 seconds left on the clock. It'll be close, though.
Certainly will. Tristan Iglesias has probably got the time to slow down if he wants to, but he won't, because it's far too risky. I've been there and learnt that in the past. I won't tell that story now. But either way, only 4 corners to go, quite possibly, for the Spaniard right now. Accompanied, of course, by Tim Matska, who cut through the field wonderfully in the opening part of this race. 2 very strong in-laps from him as well allowed this car to jump ahead of Cedric Nibusek, driving for Team RSO. And T3 Motorsport by Maniti are going to come through the final couple of corners again and win 4 in a row in the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. Complete domination from T3 Motorsport by Maniti. They take maximum points from Okayama as well to add to the 200 they gained in the United States 2 weeks ago. Team RSO flashed the lights over the line. They're pleased with second as well. 3rd place is going to go to 5-Star Motorsport. Adam Isaacson making some great progress throughout the latter portion of this race as well. A great recovery drive from RSR by Buchkiger to finish 4th. They just get ahead of Vector by RSR in 5th. V-Racers are going to come home 7th from the AM category. There they go in the BMW just through your screen now. AM winners here for Marco Silva. And Project Dynamic just about hold off Rusty Spatulars by 1 second to win in Pro-Am. Another very good race here at Okayama, a reverse grid race, more unpredictable, but same old in terms of the winner. T3 Motorsport by Maniti for the 4th time in 4 races.
At this rate, they're going to be locking up the championship by the time we hit the second half of the season. I mean, this is exactly like what we saw Project Dynamic doing in their Lamborghini over in Pro-Am. In the fall season, right? They just locked it out, win after win after win after win. And the only thing that stopped their winning streak was, of all things, a temporary street circuit.
Yes, absolutely. It certainly was. Team 3 Motorsport by Maniti then win this race by 7 seconds ahead of Team RSO. 5-Star Motorsport rounding out your podium. That's RSR by Primus and Vector by RSR rounding out your top 5. T3 Motorsport by Maniti's 173 car was 30 seconds off the pace but finished in 6th place. Marco Silva took V-Racers over the line for the AM win. XBDMO Racing were in 8th ahead of Pure Sims Esports in their McLaren, finishing 9th ahead of Project Dynamic, the Pro-Am winners in this race. Rusty Spatulars only a second behind. Valorous Motorsport not too far behind them either. Olympus Esports with some late problems, finishing 13th ahead of T3 Motorsport by Maniti's Pro-Am car. Ingersoll Randanosis were 15th ahead of Vector by RSR in 16th. Easy Clap by TR Motorsports 17th ahead of Ingersoll by Randanosis' other car in 18th. Eclipse Racing Team were 19th ahead of Oblivion Racing Team, just managing to get inside the top 20. Then two Kazar cars, 21st and 22nd. EC Sim Racing 23rd ahead of TR Motorsport, despite their late spins. Wood Sim Racing Team finished a couple of laps down in 25th ahead of Pure Sims Esports. Westwood Racing Esports 27th ahead of RSR by G Performance. Ludens Racing and Simtech Motorsport, although not making it to the flag, I'm afraid. Neither did Cube Racing. Michael Solar not completing a single lap, I don't think, in this race. that ended up being one lap shorter, indeed, than race 1. But it was a very familiar winner in the form of T3 Motorsport by Maniti. And just to talk about Okayama as a whole here, Nolan, it produced some entertaining racing, but it was very tricky for all of these cars to get around to and get around each other in this race.
To say this was a tricky race is a little bit of an understatement, isn't it? I mean, it was just an absolute barn burner. You had difficult overtakes, you had difficult moments trying to just get past each other, but boy, was it ever exciting to watch. I mean, just non-stop action from start to finish.
It certainly was. We are going to get a couple of interviews here in a couple of moments' time with these teams. By the way, first of all, we have Project Dynamic in here for a quick chat after winning here the second race in Pro-Am. Dawson Hess, excuse me, joins us now from Project Dynamic. Dawson, welcome along. Good to have you here from Project Dynamic. Top 10 from you in the overall standings, but more importantly, a Pro-Am win. Talk us through, firstly, your stint in that opening part of the race. It was a very chaotic start.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Unfortunately, we missed Coda, but it's good to be here. The first stint was definitely very interesting. Had a little bit of an incident there in the hairpin. Not really sure what happened. And then I think we were 3 wide through turn 1, going into turn 2, and then all of a sudden I just saw cars going backwards behind me. So wasn't going to complain about that. Unfortunate for those who were involved, but yeah, it was a fun race.
Certainly was. And then handing over, of course, to your teammate, you were getting pressure from behind a little bit. Rusty Spatulas were starting to get close. Were you nervous watching along on the sidelines there, watching your teammate bring that one home?
I was just kind of trying to talk Jesse through it. We were trying to keep Pearson's behind us just to have the buffer to Rusty Spatulas, and then once we saw, I believe it was Olympus, between Pure Sims and Rusty Spatulas, we let Pure Sims through, and then I think Olympus spun again on the last lap, but luckily we had enough of a gap to not have to worry about it.
Yes, certainly, and you're back to familiar winning ways here after obviously not quite winning in race 1, not being with us for the first couple of races here either. But good to see you back on the top step here once again, Dawson. And yeah, congratulations to you and all the team, of course, at Project Dynamic. Thanks very much for coming to join us, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right, thank you very much.
There we are, Dawson Hess joining us there from Project Dynamic, having won race 2, excuse me, in the Pro-Am category. We're going to stay with Pro-Am now because Tim Reiter is now going to join us, hopefully more successfully than we managed a couple of weeks ago. We can actually chat to him now. Tim, good to have you here. Obviously, race 2 not quite going as well as race 1, but let's focus on the positives. First of all, victory in the first race here at Okayama. Tell us a little bit about how that race went and how you guys managed to pull off the race victory on this occasion.
Well, yeah, first of all, it's good that it works now. Yes. I figured it out.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't want to talk about the second race, but the first race was like, I don't remember everything anymore because it's like overcrowded through this because of the second race, but like we had a pretty much very uneventful race where we had a pit stop strategy that was immaculate, so it was really just a clean cut race, and yeah, everything went well, and yeah, so we won finally and hopefully now for the first time, because the last time we got disqualified, but let's hope that's not gonna happen after this race.
Yes, certainly, we hope so as well. What's it been like sharing the car on this occasion? Obviously, you went through the entirety of the Circuit of the Americas on your own. This time you're sharing with a teammate. How different has that made it on this occasion?
Well, there are different aspects to it, obviously. It's way more stressful if you're driving alone. So it was kind of a relief. Also, like, Twan was really, really fast. Probably as fast as me, so we had a really good team combination. That's always great. That's also like in real life if two drivers are very fast and pretty equal fast as well, then yeah, you have a very good possibility of winning, and yeah, in the end we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, hopefully we can see those race results stand on this occasion, as opposed to what happened at the Circuit of the Americas. Either way, congratulations on the victory earlier on a good round overall here at Okayama. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
All right, great. Thank you as well. Bye.
Thank you very much. Tim Reiter there from the 2-3-5 team, who took race victory in the Pro-Am category in the first of these two races. Now we're going to move down to the AM category. V Racers having won both of the races here in this particular race, in this particular event, I should say. We're going to chat to them now. Nuno Costa and Marco Silva also joining us here today. Marco, good to have you here. First of all, how has this event been for you? Overall? Because 2 race victories in one night must be very, very satisfying for you both.
Yes, guys. Thank you. It's our first win, first of all. So actually getting 2 in a row has been just fantastic. That was the most perfect evening for us. A lot of chaos on the first race, but we actually came out on top still. I believe there was a lot of carnage back in the pack. So yeah, very pleased. I think we drove really well. Thanks to Nuno. I think perfect race from all of us. So yeah, very happy to come away with 2 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nuno, how was your day from your perspective out here? Okayama famously difficult for overtaking and so on. Was that noticeable for you guys? How was the circuit? How was the car? And how are you feeling out there? We might not have Nuno Costa at the moment. He's on mute.
We might not have Nuno.
No.
But yes, it was quite difficult. You were very right. It's a difficult circuit, but to be honest, standing out a bit in front, you just have to get out of the way of the Pro and Pro-Am cars. We had a few misunderstandings, letting a few past. Maybe some that dived on an inside that we just got spun around, but fortunately it was all very good, and it didn't matter at the end for the classification. I think with Niels we had a bit of a miscommunication, and we just ran a bit too deep into the hairpin. Eventually his clutch just spun it around. I don't think it was intentional, but yeah. Anyway, we were very happy and very chuffed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll let you guys go now and enjoy the double victory here this evening. Of course, Marco as well as Nuno as well, who's unfortunately we've not been able to speak to on this occasion. But Marco Silva, thanks very much for coming to join us, and congratulations on your victories tonight.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations on the broadcast. Top stuff as always. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Marco Silva there from V Racers, talking to us after a double AM victory for those guys. Doesn't look like we've been able to get the guys from the very front of the field in on this occasion, unfortunately, so that will just about do us here this afternoon at Okayama. We have completed a couple of our 6 races now. We move to Laguna Seca in just 2 weeks' time. Same time, same place. As always, you can catch us here on Racebot TV. We hope to see you then. A big thank you to everybody who's joined us here tonight. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Nolan Rempel. Hugo Louise has been behind the cameras. You've been watching the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here in 2022. And until Laguna Seca, it's goodbye for now.